T minus 15 minutes. T minus 15. T minus 14 minutes. T minus 13 minutes. T minus 12 minutes. T minus 11 minutes. T minus
As
10
most
minutes.
recent as the Gulf Wars, right?
Yeah, there is Persian Gulf.
T minus 9 minutes. T minus 8 minutes. T minus 7 minutes. T minus 6 minutes. T minus 5 minutes. T minus 4 minutes. T minus 3 minutes. T minus 2 minutes. T minus 1 minute. T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Oh yeah!
Give me a hell yeah!
What? Wow, man, freak out!
Welcome everyone to Yissilmissil Productions channel. My name is Steven Yissel, and today this is Madness Hour episode 2. So today we have another guest with us. It is Jeremy. So I'm going to be bringing him in right now. Hey Jeremy, can you hear me?
Uh,
Can you hear me?
I hear you. There we go.
Hey, how's it going, man?
What up, man? Wait a
I'm
minute.
digging the shades.
Yeah, I'm missing my bar setting. What is this?
Hey, it works. It works, all right.
I guess I'll just let it roll this time. So I told you I had something for you for this
Oh, I
first,
think I see it.
first one. Yeah, I think you know what it's gonna be. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hey,
I dig it.
remember? Yeah, remember it's Zoo Off Madness. A little bit of the Macho Man, and a little bit of the Zoolofs. So you just said wear the hat, so I wear the crazy shades and the purple T-shirt because I'm the cream of the crop, brother. And I haven't even had a drink yet today. So
Oh, it's good to see you, man.
yeah, how are you? How was the holiday?
I've been doing well. You know,
Good.
just trying to keep things under control here as best as I can.
Yeah,
But who needs control, right? Who needs it?
that's it depends on who you ask, right?
Yeah, they need control.
Absolutely.
Like the ones that are starting all the fires in California.
You know, I hadn't even heard about it till the other day. A buddy of mine asked me about it. He goes, "Hey, you heard about this? You seen this?" So I started looking into it a little bit more. The one that got me was when they had a satellite image, and they had three simultaneous fires in three different locations. You can't tell me that is isolated. I'm sorry. You can't convince me. Oh, forgot one thing.
Oh,
I don't know if
you got the whole gimmick, man.
I
Awesome.
told you, I forgot. I saw it under the hat. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that. Sorry. Yeah, but you can't tell me that that's not some shady stuff going on. And then one
Yeah,
of
I
the
saw
things,
that overhead satellite image
yes,
where they
that
all
was
were,
one.
it was like a triangular pattern too. Like boom,
Yes.
boom, boom.
And then the one that gets me is that all these people, again, I've been kind of out of the loop when it comes to like the crazy, not I want to say conspiracy because I always think that there's at least half truths to that. But looking at it from this vantage point, I go, something's not right with this. Then I started seeing people talking about um, LA was going to be some like future city design in like 4 or 5 years. And the key starting point that needed to be upgraded was Palisade. And this is the same conversation they had in Lahaina in Hawaii, what, 2 years ago? Same thing. You can't tell me that they're not just destroying these areas to build up whatever this better city, which I just think is just nothing but like 1984.
Yeah, it's a control city. That's what they
Yeah,
want.
yeah. Cameras on every corner. They're gonna have AI controlling everything. I mean, 2030 is only 5 years from now. If anyone's paid attention to 2030 aspects, I mean, we're rolling right along towards 1984. Or if you want to have it even fun thought processes, how much closer are we to Demolition Man?
Yeah. Getting a ticket for every time you swear.
So think about social media in the last 5 years. You post something, it goes against community standards. Excuse
Wasn't
me?
that crazy to see like these religious posts get those tags on it, like it might not be safe for viewers?
Yeah,
And then you open it up and it's just like a passage from the Bible with an image of like Jesus or something.
Yeah, they I don't want, it's not shadow, but they put like a, you can't see the picture, and then they
Yeah,
give you
like
like a
click here to
warning.
reveal it type
Yeah.
of BS.
And
Yeah.
so you're sitting there and you're like, what am I going to see? Somebody, decapitated or something. And then the next thing you know, it's just like a painting of Jesus and with a quote that he had said or, quoting the Bible. And it's like, so this is like some community standard. This is wrong. I mean, I don't see anything that's a problem.
Yeah, Facebook is all sorts of effed up. See, even on YouTube, I need to be careful with what I say on here.
Yeah.
And it just sucks. And I can't use music like I use, when I started doing video work, like I want to say over 20 years ago now. Like
Hmm.
I was using songs that I enjoyed and I'd put
Yeah.
them onto whatever projects I was working on. Now it's like you can't monetize anything. Even if you
Mhm.
tag, like there's one video I have up that is like sharing monetization with a royalty-free tune. So what am I supposed to do?
Right.
Either I
I
pay
mean,
$40 a month to have a service that will give me unlicensed music
mhm.
and clearance for the channel, and up to 5 channels for the 40 a month. But it's still like, making us jump through so many hoops just to have like a normal platform running.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't matter what time of day I go live on this channel. I got 2,000 followers. There's never
Yeah.
more than 10 people watching. So like
Yeah.
give
We
that
talked
one.
about that. Yeah. It
Like
doesn't make,
so I'm just doing what I'm doing. Like I have the eBay store I'm running. Like
yeah.
that's the only way I can survive. I can't survive on YouTube. You kidding me? $3.25 from
Well,
from last
yeah.
month.
Well,
And I
that's
don't
here's
even
the
get a
thing.
payout until $100 quota is met. And it's like at 70 right now.
Yeah. That's a lot of what people are saying though. They're not being able to make anything off YouTube. I mean, I watched Mark Dyson stuff, and he's over here talking about how he's like stuck at the same like level of subscribers for like 6 years, and it's, I don't buy it.
Yeah, if I wasn't like jumping around doing different content, I started doing well, I think I said this last time. I was doing the board meeting videos, and that got the channel a lot of traction. But like the
Hmm.
previous, I don't know how many years, let's say like 14 years since like I opened it in '06, and then I didn't have it from like '07 to 2011, 2012. I
Hmm.
basically didn't have this channel access. Like I didn't have access all through college. So it really fucking sucked. And I couldn't do anything. I was trying to like get the validations going through. Like didn't remember the secret question because I made it so obscure because I thought like I was being funny and or some shit. But
Yeah.
now it's like I was able to grow the channel from like under 200 subs out to 1,000 through the board meeting videos. And then when I started doing the one-on-one interviews, that's when I got it doubled from the 1,000 to 2,000.
Okay.
And so, like, what am I supposed to do? I put out all of these different shorts and clips and all that. There's over 300 shorts I put out.
Hmm.
Maybe a handful of them got over 1,000 views, but most of them are like 50 views, 40 views. And this is for a channel that is running with 2,000 subs. So
So you
please,
think the
like, if
algorithm,
anybody can explain this to me, other than it's shadow banning, then please enlighten me because it's
or it's this so-called algorithm that's doing it? I mean, that's a lot of other, what I hear people say on YouTube channels is the algorithm is just, they categorize what's important, what isn't. So
yeah. And
it's
get this
kind
one. YouTube decided to give me a strike on the board meeting videos, one in particular of a mother reading from a book that's available at the school for all ages.
of, oh wow.
And the original video that I ripped it from was on another YouTube channel for the school itself. So I got a strike on my channel. I couldn't
Yeah.
go live for a week. And then the original video is still up, but my cut short clip of just the one public comment gave me a strike on my channel because it
Wow.
wasn't safe for children. Okay, well, at least now, like YouTube and Google is admitting what these school boards won't admit,
That's
that it's
crazy.
unacceptable to have porn, and specifically gay porn, in the school system.
Right.
Plain and simple. You're supposed to be learning stuff to get your mind growing.
Right.
All this stuff about creativity. Look at how much shackles we have here,
Oh yeah.
and just trying to be creative. So then they give everybody like free reign to go and like make up a new person out of themselves. A fantasy land, in my opinion. And this is going way far out for like whatever these elites are trying to push. I know part of it's depopulation, but like I've talked about this with my other friends. Like there's like the extreme end that we all see in the media, and then there's the people that just want to be left alone
Yeah.
and live their life like they want to without bothering anybody.
Well, that's the way
And
it should be.
yeah, I mean, it was like that for a long time.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like even these public figures that like came out later to be the homosexual, like they kept that secret for a long time
Right.
because it wasn't necessary.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's just all silly. Like these books shouldn't be in the schools, obviously. We should be
What
learning
did they learn?
like about our architecture, but no, no, no. If we look too much into it, we all of a sudden see that every 4 years there's a world fair and all the buildings have to be destroyed after those years. Like something fishy's going on if you look too far into it. And I will be doing deep dives on the World's Fairs because
Nice.
last year when I went to Nashville and I looked at the Parthenon, 1-to-1 scale replica, that was supposed to be a temporary building. And they kept it and made it a historical landmark. And then they finished it like not even 10, 15 years ago. They put the giantess Athena in there,
Wow.
gold plated and everything, holding a 6 foot angel or a
Okay.
6 foot person with fake wings. I need to look into that more. But like just the immensity of these things. And then but no, we need to go play pretend here. We
Mhm.
need to go think that like we're going to be like looking at our driver's license and saying like my gender is XXXXXXXXX. Like we need to get beyond this stuff. We got a civilization to build, and it's not going like we're stagnant. There was something I actually saw the other day where you could look at these different clothing styles from decade to decade, and you can kind of guess the decade.
Yeah.
But right after 2000, like 2001, it's like everything just stagnated.
It's funny you bring that up because a couple weeks ago I had that same conversation with my wife. I said, "You ever notice that how you go back through the decades?" I think it was because of work. We actually had with work we had Christmas tree competitions, and the whole thing was designing by decades. So like my department was like 1970, so I think that's where we transitioned into this conversation. And I said, if you look at the styles for the last 20 years now, since like you said, after 2000, I think, attributing like 2000, 2001, early, it's still kind of rolled over the 90s a little bit, especially late 90s. I'd say by the time you hit 2005, you're supposed to start to see some type of involvement, and there's nothing. I mean, I can walk outside today, go to a store, and it's like you could transport me 20 years ago. I couldn't tell the difference. I mean, we're not evolving. Our architecture has been the same for decades, which is very plain, too much glass, ugly. Um, Clothing style, it's the same. I mean, I agree with you. As a civilization, there's nothing. We haven't done anything. The only thing we've done is create faster electronics, faster way to be connected per se, but we've lost the disconnect, and we're just stagnant. We're not doing anything. It
No.
actually, I think
And
we're hurting.
even, sorry, I'll let you finish your thought.
No. I was gonna say, I think we're hurting ourselves in the sense of like evolving past certain chapters of alive civilization. I mean, the '80s had a thing, the '90s had a thing. Okay, maybe early 2000s, but I'll be honest with you. I've said this for a long time. 2001. Ever since 9/11, I feel like the world has gone into some type of like alternate dimension, and we were just stuck. Like nothing to me is the same. I mean, there was a carefree aspect of our lives, but I feel like every single year since 9/11 has just been one thing after another. More
Yeah.
school shootings, more terrorism, more fear, fear. And then you get to a point lately where it's like you can't express yourself. Hey, this is how I am. No, 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 no. That goes against community standards, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah, we're hurting people's feelings. Meanwhile,
Right.
everybody else can go and say cis this or or gender privilege that and just man hating left and right. Like what's going on with that?
Well,
And
you
again, it
go.
stagnates everything from creativity to advancement in technology to just our culture in general. Like they're trying to confuse us and tell us we don't have a culture. If you
Oh,
look
that's
in
it.
some books, you'll find it.
It's all there. And you brought up a great point. You talked about man hating. For how many years have we heard about the word toxic masculinity and guys this and guys that? I mean, so to get to the point now where you see the videos and they're ostracizing men. No matter what. If you, this is the way I look at it. You'll probably agree with me. If you're a man and you work out, okay, you eat clean, you work out, um, you're religious, you believe in your family, and you go to work and everything like that. That's they call that toxic. To me, I was always brought up with the fact that that's just what a guy does. That you're a guy. You work on cars, you get dirty, you're doing yard work. Not to say that women can't. This isn't my point. So I don't want anyone to take what I'm saying away. That
No,
women
no, I think I
can't.
understand. Like
But
there's a homogenization happening
yes,
where they don't want to say that the sexes are different, but that they
right.
are one and the same, and it actually plays into the whole Baal satanic god thing,
Yeah,
where you can be everything,
yeah. But
but in reality you can't.
what you're creating, it's almost like, and I've heard men say this, and this kind of goes into something I wanted to bring up since we're talking about it today. Um, it's like it feels like there's a war on men in a way. I mean, you're sitting here and it's like you can't do the things traditional men do. It's like villain. Like, I'm sorry, if I'm working on my car in the garage, that's not being toxic. That means I'm just doing work on my car. If I drink beer with my buddies, that doesn't mean I'm toxic. I'm just enjoying my weekend. If I work out and I have muscles or whatever, and I'm not talking like Ultimate Warrior style muscle. I'm just talking about like your everyday kind of guy, right? You
Hmm.
can't say that's bad. Why is that bad? And the problem is you got all these boys growing up now who all they're hearing is this negative stuff. Oh no, you can't wear that. You can't do that. You can't eat that. Don't eat red meat.
Yet in
You
the
know,
90s we were going, suck it.
oh,
Oh hell yeah. And we
that
were
was yeah.
watching all this pro wrestling. It's like that saved us from whatever they're trying to do to the children now. Like
Well,
imagine not have like I feel like well at least this generation has WWE and AEW and TNA,
yes.
but like there was something definitely missing, or like there's a lot more restrictions to even like view that type of stuff now. You were able to just turn on a TV and it was on a regular channel.
Yeah, now
That means
everything's
like you
getting
didn't have to buy these cable packages and be like,
right.
okay, we're spending 400 a month on TV. Here you go, watch the wrestling. It was like you get the basic like subscription or whatever it was, and you could watch this stuff every week. It was just every pay-per-view every month. You'd have to either miss out or read the dirt sheets to see
Yeah,
what happened in the newspaper, and then you watch the next show then that Monday night.
which made it great. And as a guy growing up in that time, I mean, when you brought up DX, I mean, I'm in high school. I can tell you for a fact that my high school and countless high schools, I'm not just gonna say mine. You're gonna see DX shirts, you're gonna see NWO shirts, you're gonna see Stone Cold shirts, you're gonna see Rock shirts, and this was across the board. This wasn't just this was guys. I knew many girls in high school wearing Stone Cold shirts,
That's awesome.
cut jeans,
And like
black.
around the same time, I was in
Oh
middle school,
yeah. Hmm.
and it was the same thing
Yep.
over there. Or like every Halloween in like fifth grade, I dressed up as The Rock. There were two different Canes that came to school that day. There was a Stone Cold. I think one year there was an Undertaker.
Yeah.
But that 2000 in the fall, at the height of WWF,
Hmm.
that was such just an escape for boys in general, and like you said, with girls too. Because you'd
It
have
did.
like you bring your friends over, and like the girls would watch the stuff too sometimes.
It
So it's like,
became not taboo. It like I remember like people being younger, like elementary school, middle school, like professional wrestling was more cartoonish. So if you were still watching it, kind of at that point, it was kind of like, it got, not say weird. I knew a lot of guys who watch wrestling. Don't get me wrong, but it was like, okay, the girls would kind of look at you, and especially at that point, you're starting to get a little interested in the other side, and you're I don't know if I should let them know I watch wrestling. It's kind of cartoonish, but I guarantee you, within 3 years, those same girls that you were like, I don't know if they're watching. They're the ones showing up at school with the Stone Cold shirt on. You up, and you know, and it was fun. I mean, it really felt like people were brought together. I mean, you didn't feel so like it didn't feel like you were an outsider. I remember she was sitting next to me in class, Stone Cold shirt. Hey, did you watch Raw last night? Oh yeah, and it was like thinking back, and that was 25 plus years ago. It was fun. And it was fun only because there wasn't differences. Now I look at everything and I go, well, women can do everything men can do. Men aren't allowed to do what men should do, per se. Okay. And then it leads you into this whole spectrum now as an adult male where we've talked about it on the side. Yes, I am over 40. Yes, my numbers in testosterone have gone down, and so has many men. If you read about it, oh my God, the public thinks you're on steroids.
well,
Taking testosterone
look at some of the
replacement.
stuff they were putting stuff in the water to
Yep.
I really don't like mentioning this guy, but Alex Jones was talking about making the water making the frogs gay, and it turned out to be true. And it was a meme for many years, and then it was finally proven true.
Yep.
And then all the extra ingredients in the foods,
Yep.
that's also messing with our hormones on both spectrums, both genders.
Yes.
Everyone's being messed up. Is spiking ones that shouldn't be spiked, it's lowering ones that shouldn't. And
Well,
then
we
here
have
we
time,
are,
right?
and we're wondering why everyone's so angry and upset about things, or
Well, let me
short
tell you.
tempers.
Let me tell you, you're 100% right. And I know we got time, and it's kind of something that I'll talk about, which I don't shy away from. Because look, if you're over 30, even 35, guys, this goes for guys. if you're if you're fatigued, you're tired, you don't feel like you have the energy that you once did, even 10 years ago, like next time you go for a blood test, just ask your doctor. Just check my testosterone levels because that could be a key. And look, last fall, man, I broke. I mean, I hadn't realized it. This is retrospect now. I was depressed, huge anxiety. I had no clue what was going on with me. Had my doctor run my numbers again, and I was under 200, which is like that's low. And you bring up a great point because as I started to research these issues, that I mean, I'm starting to find that there's men who are even in their late 20s who have numbers down to like what I have or what guys in their 50s and 60s have. Why are men that are like 28, 30 years old having a problem with testosterone? That should not be the case. And you bring up that great point. Look at the foods in this country. Read your ingredients. Most of us can't even pronounce what's in there, let alone what it is.
It's been years since I've had any Wendy's or any like I have had Mexican food just the other day,
Yeah.
but like it's like I can't trust anything now.
No, and again, I go into this as like an education thing. I'm not sitting here saying like, hey, I'm like a doctor. I don't know any of that stuff. But I've been spending so much research trying to figure out what was going on with me for a few months, and this went from September to November. Good.
Also, the stuff up in the sky.
Oh yeah.
So 2 days ago, I was out in the morning at 8 a.m. and there were a few trails in the sky. It
Mhm.
was in the teens here in Chicagoland. And 9, 10, 11 a.m., By then, went outside to meet a friend because he was dropping stuff off, and I saw little flakes. It was still bright and sunny, clear sky,
Mhm.
except for some of those trails I saw in the morning. But there were little flakes, like snowflakes, coming down with a clear sky.
Yeah.
And all I could think of is this is the shit they're spraying, and this
The
is how
aluminum
it's
like
coming
like
down
they
and it's
talk about,
affecting
yeah.
us.
Oh,
It's like
easily.
little ice crystals that you really need to watch the air, and you'll see it. They'll hit the sun just right, and there's
Yeah.
so few of them, but they're there,
Yeah. I
and
wouldn't
it's
doubt it.
undeniable now.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I really feel like we're being poisoned on a huge level. Cancer cases are up. You could probably walk through by 10 people at a grocery store, and 2 of 10 might have cancer. You know, but the funny thing is, with all these cancers, there's so many cancer treatments now. It's not the sense of like, oh, you have cancer and it's just a death sentence. It's, oh, they're all treatable and everybody's like in remission. I've known I've known a few people in the last year or so who got diagnosed with a cancer and now they're in remission because they went through treatment. It's like, yeah, we're gonna poison you, get you sick. We're gonna treat you because we have a way of doing it, and it's money, 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 money. Just a little $1 Million Man song there, and that's
Yeah,
all it is. And it's sickening to me. And it goes back to the testosterone thing because as a guy, it's like I got put on something. I'm like night and day from where I was 3.5 months ago. Okay, why do we have such an epidemic on that scale? Why are guys in their 20s having the same testosterone level as what traditionally a 65-year-old man has? What's causing that? There's so many causes. Food,
how were you
stress,
3 months
diet.
ago?
3 months ago?
Yeah,
So that was what, October?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So the backstory. September. Now I had stress last year, just like anybody else. So my stress wasn't like I deal with it. It's normal. It was everyday stress. So it wasn't like it got added. Okay, I don't want to take that like, well, maybe you had more stress. No, no, no. My stress was what has always been stress to me: work, life. But I have ways to de-stress. But I had a huge panic attack in September, and I could not figure out why. I mean, I hadn't had a panic attack like that in 15 years. And when I did the first time, I was getting divorced, so that's the whole stress thing, right? Anyway, so after that, I couldn't, I could get up in the morning, but I was scared shitless. I couldn't even tell you why. I'd wake up, I was scared. I was scared to go to work. I was scared to get up. I was scared to watch TV. Scared of my own shadow. I was hunting for reasons. I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't work out. Now I wasn't working out too. Don't get that wrong. I would go for walks, but I wasn't like hitting the weights like I used to. So all this stuff I'm going through, and I'm like, what is going on? I'm just anxiety ridden. I have no, my energy is like super low. I can't do anything. I'm anxious all the time. I'm sweating. It's like, what in the hell is going on? So, so by the time October comes, right, I'm better, but I'm still stuck like in this like cycle that I can't break. And I'm freaking out because I'm like, is there just something wrong with me that I'm never gonna find out? Like I just don't feel like I did 2 months ago. 2 months ago, it's like I'm game. Hop in the car, we go places, I'm reenacting, we're going to baseball games, going out in public, this, that, and the other. You tell me to go to the grocery store and get freaking milk? And I was like, I'm sweating. Anyways, so that's how I was in October. I just wasn't, it was like a space down. Like, not terrified, but just like, I don't want to do anything. So I had been on testosterone the year before, but cost and everything like that, I stopped. And I realized as I'm starting to put things together, as my mind is starting to work again, where I can think clear. I start thinking, maybe it's that. Let me just check symptoms, and I start checking low testosterone symptoms. And besides the sexual function, okay, that's a separate thing. You wouldn't even believe that it helps with depression, energy, fatigue. anxiety, confidence. And I'm checking every box on here. Is like, I don't have any of this right now. So I was due for labs, just regular, and it was already in there. So I went, had the labs done, and my results come back. I was 160 on testosterone. In the United States, they consider anything under 250 to be low. So I'm almost 100 points below, and
Wow.
I'm 43, right? So right now I'm looking at this going like, I have the testosterone levels of a 60-something-year-old man. What is going on here? I had lost weight. I was on a diet. I mean, so it was like I was eating good. I go for walks every day. So it's like, okay, fine. I'm doing what I'm supposed to. And my stress is still normal. Work is the same stress I've always had. My life, it's the same stress as I always had. There wasn't anything added. So I'm like, it can't be that, right? So I tell my doctor, I said, look, I'm thinking that this might be the case because I've been in contact with my doctor. She's like, okay. So she gives me a prescription for what I needed to. I've been on it for 6 weeks as of yesterday. My anxiety finally went away where I felt like it's like gone and so controllable about a week and a half ago. So from September till a week and a half ago, I would have days where I was going like this, fighting, fighting, fighting. And the more I was researching with low testosterone, there was guys who were like, I was depressed, I was anxious, I lost my confidence, I couldn't work out, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. And everything I was reading was when you hit about the 6 to 8 week mark, the benefits kick in. And they said I'm night and day from where I was before, this, that, and the other. And I can tell you that now after 6 weeks, I feel almost to where I was in August. And
So was there like a crash that happened in like a month time frame where you just went from being extremely confident to then like you're wondering like why am I waking up? What am I doing here? Type of thing.
okay, so the crash happened in September, about second week of September. And I was at work when that happened. I mean, as silly as it is, like thinking back, and look, I have an office job, so poor posture and tense shoulder muscles and neck and everything like that plays a factor. And really, what happened was I'm standing at my desk, I got nothing going on. I reach down, I pick up my water bottle, and I go to take a drink with my left hand. And all of a sudden, I get this pain, tension, lock pain right here. First thing that goes through my head is, I'm having a heart attack. Why? I just, I had a physical like 3.5 months ago. You know, that's no. But my mind is telling me, heart's racing. I'm sweating all of a sudden, and I'm like, what in the hell is going on? I mean, this is like this, Steve. Snap. Call my wife, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going on. And she goes, you're not having a heart attack. She goes, you're talking and you're breathing, and you just walk down the hallway to just collect your thoughts. She goes, it's panic. Okay, yeah, you're right. I've had it before, years ago. Okay, fine. And so now you're playing into what is going on. And now there was a family, there's a family issue and things like that. Else I'm not going to talk about, but I figured okay that maybe that triggered it, right? But that issue has always been there. That's been there for a few years. So again, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Well, leading up to that, in hindsight, thinking back, trying to figure out like what caused this is that I could feel my anxiety coming through, it's popping through at certain times throughout the summer. But it was always like, okay, maybe it was an anxious moment, or I would think about something. I mean, look, we had a good friend of ours pass away last year, and that had an effect, on me. I remember going to his memorial service, and I had a panic. I was anxiety.
I didn't go.
I remember.
Like I just couldn't do it.
I know. And I took the day off work, and I wasn't supposed to be off, and they let me. And I remember going up there with one of our friends, Chris, and I was just like, I hadn't felt like that in years. Like my anxiety was up, and it was like like it kicked the thing on maybe. Where like, I mean, what happened with Larry was very sudden, And I guess maybe it just woke up a side of me. It was like, man, that's just like look how fast you can just be here and be gone. And I
Yeah,
keep
to
going,
let everyone know that's watching here,
going.
we had a reenacting friend of ours. He was like in his early 60s, right?
No, he was 70. He was my dad's age.
70,
He was
but
70.
still he was
Really,
very active,
he took
very
care of it.
healthy, always eating healthy.
Hmm.
And he had said one day he was sitting at the desk at his computer with watered down Coca-Cola. And I'm starting to get suspicious about Coca-Cola now. But he said that he was sitting at the desk sipping on that, and then he got this chest pain and he ended up going to the hospital, and they said they had fluid in his lungs. They apparently they let him go back home,
Yeah,
and then he had to go back to the hospital, and then his lung collapsed.
yeah. It was a
And it
passage.
happened so fast, like within a week. Like
Yep.
he was just like, this is freaking ridiculous. Like I could hear like his frustration just through the messenger chat.
Yeah.
And like I tried to go visit him at the hospital, and those motherfuckers, they said I couldn't see him
Yeah.
because I wasn't family.
Yeah. And you were
And
real close to where he
after
was.
that, I'm just like, oh, I should have just said I was family. He's my cousin. Like,
Yeah.
what are they gonna do? Show me your
So,
papers. Show me
yeah.
'em.
I mean, and then you find out. I mean, he was in what? He was in a coma at the end, the collapsed lung or something like that. And then
After the collapsed lung, he went into a coma, and they put him on an incubator, and I don't think he came out of that.
that's what I heard. And like I said, I mean, I went to that memorial service, and it was like maybe it was more like the shock, maybe it was more like the whole facing mortality. I mean, it was like the last we had heard, it was like, well, they found out what's wrong with him, and then they can treat it, and it's like, okay, wait, that's good. And next thing you know, oh, he's in a coma, he's in a ventilator, and then you know we get that mass group text in our hobby, and oh, Larry passed away. What? I mean, maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was just facing a mortality thing. I'm 43, and it's like these things pop in your head. You start assessing life a little bit differently. When you start reaching middle age. I mean, Larry, and I guess maybe the factor is that Larry and my father are the same age, so it's kind of like I started thinking about my dad a lot more. It's like, oh, my dad's the same age. It's like, oh my god, and maybe those things deep down was an anxiety, and it was breaking through to me, but I can sense that between the work stress and Larry, like, okay, maybe that was just what was popping through to me, but it wasn't anything that isn't abnormal. We all, I mean, I've had family members pass away, and I didn't feel that way in that
Mhm.
sense. I didn't go to work and feel super anxious or
Yeah, something was different about Larry. Like
yeah.
he was taken too soon. It was very sudden.
It
A bit
was,
suspicious in a way too.
totally was. I was talking to one of my coworkers just prior to Christmas, and it was right after our car got stolen. And I started talking about Larry, and I said, it's just the way this year has been. I can't wait for the calendar to change. I mean, I just need a fresh break. And I started talking about Larry, and I told my coworker, I said, this is the kind of guy who I would need right now for all the stuff I'm going through. It's not to say like I don't have support. Like,
Yeah, he was
all
someone that both of us talked to
yeah,
about nearly everything. He was such an open book about talking about real stuff.
yeah.
And
I mean,
he was a good ear for listening. So it was quite a loss for both of us that
it
he
was.
just all of a sudden is gone. Here I'm thinking he's going to be around for another 20, 30 years
Yeah,
just based on his energy levels, like the way he was taking care of his body, the way he was appreciating everything in his life. Like he'd go out to his garden
yeah,
and be like, "These are my mother's flowers. They bloom every year at this time." And it wasn't like monotone like that, but he'd be making Facebook posts about it. He'd be always thinking of our ancestors. He'd post stuff about the Civil War all the time because he was active in the reenactments with us. And he was one of those guys where like I saw that he was struggling with learning like the formations and stuff and how to hold the musket and all that.
Yeah,
And I took him aside and I helped him out with all that. And we
it was a
bonded over that about just like just a nice teaching moment led to this really in-depth friendship that like feels like it got ripped away from both of us and
yeah.
just very callous. Like
I
God
mean,
was just like, fuck you. We're taking Larry now.
yeah, and, and it's kind of what I was talking to this, guy at work about. I said, with everything going on, I mean, it's kind of like that missing puzzle piece. I mean, it's not to say hey, you don't have people you can't talk to, but it's just something about Larry that was so different. Like he was genuinely, he would listen to your concern. He wouldn't have an opinion on it until he really understood where you're coming from. Like it was weird. Like if I tell you something, Steve, and you'd be like, okay, well, I have an opinion about that, or you would tell me something, I have an opinion about it. Larry would just like you could talk to him, he wouldn't have an opinion. It was like he like searched your soul in a way and found that source at its core. And then he would talk to you, whether it was like philosophical, whether it was like, having faith, God, whatever. He would just be so in tune to it. And the way he would talk to you is he would always talk to you with an open mind, an open heart. And it would like, he was genuine. And I said, there's not many people I've ever come to, know in this world like Larry. I probably haven't. In 40, almost 44 years of being on this planet, I can't tell you that I've ever met anybody as genuine as Larry was. I mean, if I ever heard anybody in the future say anything bad about Larry, I would assume that they're lying because I could never see anything
Don't give him that atomic elbow.
right off the top.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, he was definitely
I don't like hearing people make fun of people like Larry either. And there was some of that going on. So if that does happen, like I'm going to correct these people if I
yeah,
hear them talking bad like that, if he gets brought up again at any of these events. Because like like you said, he did not like interject his opinions about anything. Like, oh, well, really, you should be doing this or that. He was never like that.
no.
He was just
And
like,
look,
oh, wow. Like, tell me more. Like, what's going on?
remember when we first met him at Cyprus, our
Hmm.
group, and I mean he came in and we didn't know who he was. And you find out and you're having conversations like he was a Democrat, he was very involved in the political area and this that and the other, but the thing was respectful, and he's old school respectful. Like with difference of opinion, maybe we're on different sides politically and everything like that, but he like you said, he would listen to you. He said, tell me more about that, I want to hear your side, maybe. And there was things he'd be like, wow, never thought of it that way. And then as time went on, you see the change in him about things that his perceptions changed.
He would
He
go to like door to door every election year for the Democrats in Waukegan,
uh,
Illinois. And over the years, they started treating, I think especially with uh, Trump in 2016, 2015, 16, they started treating him differently. Like, not as much respect for him, like going out and doing all that work. Like, not as many thank yous. Like, he was noticing this stuff happen.
yeah,
And that's what caused him to flip. He got compassion from from the Republicans, of all things.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
that also helped him change his political views where he saw what these people were doing to the schools and all the rest of all these like extra freaking laws all over the country. Like
yeah.
he saw what was going on and he didn't like it. And he waited until literally almost the last minute to like withdraw from all of the previous commitments he was doing and
Yeah, he did.
like realign his political beliefs with um I guess the people that actually cared about him. Because
You
it
know what
really
was
sounded like he was being used in the machine to serve that greater purpose of keep everything Democrat controlled.
well? Did you
And in
notice that?
Illinois, that's all it is. It's one
Well, I was gonna
big
say
Democrat machine.
he used to get so much pushback that when he did change his beliefs on that, and even remember he would get a lot of grief for being a reenactor also
Yeah.
from his
I
circle.
think that was something else that got them to like start picking on him. It was like,
Oh
why are
yeah,
you doing that? Why are you doing that? Because a lot of them don't want to remember the past. But he was so fascinated, like he was into piano, so he knew all this classical music. He was he was somebody that studied history. So the reenacting fell right in with him, just like with all of us. Like we have these different backgrounds, but we appreciate reenacting for what it is, and also creates all these new friendships too.
And it's and that's what I really appreciate about Larry was that he was never judgmental. I mean, even when we first met him, like I said, he was a Democrat. He knew a lot of us were Republicans, but there was no battering. I mean, it's not like they make it out to be in the media where it's like, well, if your uncle is a
It
Republican,
was
what are you guys
amicable.
do at Thanksgiving? You should you go to Thanksgiving because Uncle John is going to be there talking about Trump? It's like, no, that was never. And you know what? We kept politics aside. We rarely ever talked politics in our outings. I mean, these were the type of things that Larry talked about, on the phone with or on a message. And then, I
Yeah.
mean, to be honest, I don't know how it was with you, but I mean, I spent countless hours talking with him about theology. And I realized that through this, Larry had gone to his college to learn about all that stuff. So he really had a huge religious background, and he would tell me things. I mean, I will forever be grateful, honestly, when my mother-in-law passed away. So my wife's mom passed away of cancer just over 2 years ago. And when she passed away, Larry was so faith driven. He asked how my wife was, he asked how I was doing, he asked how my daughter's doing. And he told me this. He goes, I'm going to do a special prayer sermon at my church for your mother-in-law. What was her name? Gave the name. And he did. I didn't ask him to do that. I didn't say anything. He just checked up and he said, I'm going to do that
He wanted
for
to,
her.
yeah.
He wanted to. And it was like, I'll forever be grateful that he did that. I mean, because that's how real he was. But again, I
He didn't let the old man in. So this was something I
no,
heard Diamond Dallas Page say. He never let the
I
old man in.
I just you know who else just said that? I was listening to Joe Rogan yesterday while I was working, and he had Mel Gibson on, and Mel Gibson said the same thing. Don't let the old man in. So I was wondering
Wow.
where you were gonna go, but yeah, it's crazy. They're about the same age though.
Like what makes me think of that saying too is when we were in Galena, Grant's hometown, he took time to talk to me and my dad. And he was looking because we were on like the riverfront there, and like all these buildings go up a hill, like both sides. So like the river's like really low in
Yeah.
the area. And so he's just looking around and pointing at all and explaining, like, this is where Grant's home was at first, and then it's over here. And the other side is his other home. And then over there is where this happened. And he was just so like fascinated with all of it as he was talking to us, like he just learned it an hour ago.
Yeah.
But he like was so fascinated about all of these things that when you heard him talk about it, yeah, it was he didn't let the old man in. Like, oh,
No,
yeah, whatever,
no.
whatever.
When
He
I
never was
remember
like that.
when I found out how old he was, I about fell over. I remember just having a conversation with him, and he told me like the year he graduated high school. And I did the numbers, and I go like, "Wait, it's the same year my dad graduated." And I realized that Larry's in his late 60s. When I met him, and I go, I'm telling you, if anybody could have seen Larry, you would have thought Larry was in his late 50s. He looked at least what 15 years younger than he actually was on paper, because, like you said, he didn't let the old man. He didn't.
I told him that I thought he was in his like late 40s, early 50s. He's like, I'll take that.
I
But
thought
that's
he
like
was
how
in
he
his
was like
50s.
his character, like his spirit was just young.
Young.
Yeah.
And it
Didn't let the world weigh him down.
no, and
And I
and
think
that's
we're going
one
to be
thing.
continuing to learn a lot about how he lived his life as we carry on ours. Like,
It's one thing I'll take with him. The the one thing I would do is don't let the old man in. Keep yourself healthy. Do what you can. If you don't feel right, get it checked. You know, and it's why I did, and I'm feeling better. And don't take life so serious. I mean, there's going to be serious moments out there. I mean, we're all going to face a serious moment again. You know, trials and tribulations.
You know who else somebody that's watching right now? Brenda.
Definitely,
Uh, she keeps her spirits high even with everything that's going on in her life. And so I admire that.
you have
And
to.
yeah, we do have a few watchers here today. So we got Julianne, Denise, Brenda, Robin was in here earlier. And these are all people that I've met through streaming with Brenda and her channel. So I really
Really,
appreciate she invited them all over here to watch us today.
that's
But
awesome.
yeah, so it's like they're getting a little crash course on our side of things, what's been going on here. But
Yeah,
yeah, with Brenda, like even like there was something that happened with one of her dogs the other day. But like she's carrying on, like doing all of this streaming, like she's not canceling shows, she's not shutting
yeah.
herself out, like moving she's moving things along. And I really
It's
respect
an
that.
it's an escape though too. It takes your mind off of it. It keeps that part of you going, and that's the one thing. Like, man, I wish I would have done that 3 months ago. Just push through those times, and yeah, I don't know. It's things I'm learning. It's a weird time, but
What
you know,
Brenda in the Zen chat, she's saying make a name. What do you mean by that, Brenda? Just want to know. But yeah, it's just ah yeah,
I
Larry
started.
was a good man. And
Yeah,
he's like we're gonna be continuing to like learn from how he lived his life. I really like that. I miss him every day
oh yeah.
because for you and me both, he was somebody that we could go to discuss personal life situations and all that.
I mean, what the stuff I went through in those 3 months. I mean, I could have used his input, and honestly, it was my sister who said something, but it was like a default and something that Larry talked about. I just started putting a lot more faith in you know my religious side. It started to really get back to that. I got back to that when Larry was still here. That's what really started to draw me back. But um, even I started to kind of go to that, like, I have to have faith. I'm going to get out of this. That I'm going to get my mind back, or I'm going to get my self back to where I was. And I just had to wake up every day and say that, and you know do my morning prayers. And it helped. I mean, it was just days. I'm like, I'm being challenged right now. God's challenging me for some reason. I don't know what it is. It will find out later, but just be patient. You're learning something right now, whether it's about you or something else. And I know that's what Larry would tell me too.
Yeah.
You're being challenged. God's challenging you for a reason, so have faith that this is going to see itself through. So maybe it was something I had to do. I don't know. Still waiting to find out what it's going to be. Like I said, I've only really started to get back to normal, what I consider normal, like a week and a half ago.
It's been about
So
a little over a month for me because back in the summer I had pulled my back
yeah,
uh trying to pull a yucca plant out of the garden and the pain didn't go away. The lower back pain went away, but then my foot started falling asleep just sitting in the chair here. Every time I got out of bed, I'd start having the tingles in my foot. It started going up my back to my upper left shoulder. And I was thinking maybe it's something overall, something with my back. And I eventually went to a chiropractor last month and it alleviated like 90% of all of that was going on.
jeez,
And so, I mean, give it a shot if you can. The one I went to used one of these like heat lasers on my lower
okay,
back. So like it relaxed all of the muscles in my lower back as well as that trouble spot up on the left shoulder.
yeah,
And yeah, like I said, like 90% of it went away. There's still a little bit of it here and there that feels like I need to go for an extra adjustment,
Hmm.
but I'm gonna wait on that for a little bit because I'm like still doing my stretching. I'm still eating the right way.
Yeah.
I was not eating right like this time last year,
Mhm.
but I was starting to. And like by the summertime, it was like once I hurt my back, I started eating like doing like intermittent fasting,
Yeah.
and I got down to below 180 finally for the first time in like 20 years. So it was really really different. And you have to think about like if like both of us were going through weight loss, that also affects the mind and the brain a bit.
It does. Yeah. I was. I had my physical in May last year. When I was there, I was 189, and so I'd only been on my diet plan for like a month. So my wife and I, we actually did the Weight Watchers. We were checking points, and it was like started to eat a lot more clean. By the time I went back in October, I was down to like 177, 178. I had been that low in like 10 years or more. So I mean, I learned a lot. I mean, it was like, and I should have known better. I used to be a wrestler. It was like diet, diet, diet. So you can hop on a treadmill all you want, but if you're gonna go stuff your face with French fries, burgers, and pizza, and drink all this beer, that ain't gonna help you. It's like, what did they say? It's like 80% diet and 20% gym is the old saying, or 90% diet and 10% gym. Yeah, I wholeheartedly believe that. And then once you start eating better, your brain feels better. You're getting what you need, and
I
that
ate
helps.
so much food thinking I was getting the extra calories like 4 years ago when I was doing the heavy weightlifting when I got up to like 430 deadlift.
Yeah, I remember
Like I
that.
was just eating everything and anything. Like I was eating a lot of like I was frying a lot of eggs. I was making big breakfasts, but like all of the numbers were off. I was having like maybe 60% fats, 30% protein, and
Yeah,
like the carbs are probably off the charts too.
it's a huge science. It's insane. Like you really have to be dialed in to be able to make it work, especially whatever your goals are too. So I would have done the same as you. I've been like, it's calories. I'm not going to worry about what I'm eating. Calorie, 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 and then it was the same way like building muscle. It's like the
I'm
same.
5'9". I had gotten up to 285 pounds, and it was a struggle to walk up and down stairs, and I'd get uh, short of breath, and just everything I did was a chore, even going to the gym. And then even that I was doing the strength training, so like short reps, heavy weight. I'd be there for a half hour to an hour, maybe get 4 sets in,
Wow.
but I was lifting the heavy weight.
Yeah.
And then after that, I'd go home, I'd rest, I'd eat like a fucking pig.
Yeah.
And like it just didn't work. Like I didn't have an off switch, kind of like with the drinking, which is why I'm 2 years sober now.
Nice. I I realized too that drinking too. I mean, the only time I drink now is if it's a social gathering. So if I'm at Christmas and they got have some wine or whatever. Okay, sure, I go, but I don't drink at home. I don't drink after work. I don't do any of that. Like I cut all that out. And there was a lot of like the fast foods that was gone and everything. We took that out, and then you realize like you just start to feel better in your mind. That was the first thing. Like all of a sudden you feel like you could do more. Like if you're gonna work out or walk or whatever, you don't feel fatigued. It's like you eat certain foods and you fall asleep on the couch. It's a huge
Mhm.
carb load. Like sometimes we order pizza. I'm not gonna say I'm not 100% clean, but it's like, okay, Saturday night I'll order pizza. Yeah, sure, okay. So yeah, what do you want to get? All right, we get double dough. Next thing I know, it's 9 o'clock and I fall asleep on the couch. I'm just out. Carb load. Um, but if I'm not eating like that, then okay, I ate. I had chicken. We had some greens. I had a salad. Okay, an hour later, it's like I can go downstairs and hit the weights. I'm not fatigued. I can do that. I feel like I had more energy, And that goes a long way. I mean, if your diet's off, you're just not going to be able to perform. And so, with the what my change, what going on the testosterone, and then I changed my diet, and I start exercising again. It's like, yeah, that's now you can feel the difference again. I feel like I did 10 years ago. Like I could go
Yeah, and
walk. I could
apparently
walk
like now for my age, I've hit that point where it's gonna start going down.
after 35 is what I always say.
Yeah. Oh
But I
shit.
mean, okay, what I said.
Six
Be after
days.
30.
6 days ago was the cutoff. What?
That's right. But he's 36 now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what for me, I mean, that was when I noticed is
Forever 23 in my head.
after after 35 is when I kind of started to notice like a slowdown. Like not as fast, not as, bounce back or anything like that. But okay. But the problem is everything's in increment. You don't realize it till like, 5 years later you hit 40 and you're like, man, I don't feel like I did 5 years ago. It's like, yeah, but you weren't thinking about that 2 years ago. It's
Oh,
when
I,
you
I know
stop.
for a fact my mind would be a lot slower now if I had continued drinking these past 2 years
Yeah.
because that was starting to just deteriorate my mind, I think.
Yeah,
And the
you're
same
always
thing with cannabis, which I've also cut out since
yeah,
man, I don't know, it's been months. That's all I know.
yeah.
So I haven't had any cannabis. I have CBD cream that I
Hmm.
use just for like skin hydration and all that, but
Yeah. Very good
I'm
stuff.
using that sparingly as well.
Okay.
See, my camera doesn't even want to focus in on me
I was gonna say it kind of looked different on my end.
anymore.
I mean, but it's such a wide range of health aspects that one can take. Between diet, there's so many different diets you can do. There's so many workouts you can do. You know, I told myself going this year, I'm like, look, I like to eat clean, but I still get the protein. So I'm like, I'm gonna try the Mediterranean diet this year. More fish, more but veggies and
One of
everything.
our
Just
viewers in the comments, Denise, saying she can't do as much as she wants with exercise because of radiation damage. You know, Denise, you can do a lot of body weight stuff, like stretching your arms out. Do like there's this I brought up Diamond Dallas Page before. He has this
yeah,
DDP yoga where he's gotten people who were wheelchair bound to run again. And like this is like people who were like paralyzed in the military and just also I think recently he helped Butterbean get
he did.
out of a walker.
Yeah,
He was like hunched over. He like was just shuffling his feet, and now he's walking on his own. And
you know who's working now, by
Lex
the way.
Luger's another one that he's
I was
working
just gonna
on
say,
right now, and he's also wheelchair bound, where he just randomly woke up in a hotel one day, and he had like the shooting pain going down his back, and then like a short time later, he's told he's going to be in a wheelchair pretty much for the rest of his life. So
yeah,
like he has a way that like he does everything to move around, but his legs don't work like they did. And this guy was ripped. This guy
yeah.
would put people in the torture rack like sideways on his shoulders.
He was a bodybuilder essentially that went into wrestling. I mean, he had the physique of a bodybuilder.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
had
he
like
was
Mr. Olympia type body.
yeah,
Like it was just incredible.
yeah.
So it's
And
like,
I'll look at
and like I don't like feeling bad for him, but like he's in such good spirits, and now Dallas Page has like brought him in under his wing, and that's so
yeah,
inspiring that like I know something is going to change now.
yeah.
Like I think Lex Luger is going to be able to walk again because it looked like he did have some movement. And
I want to see that through. It's funny you bring up DDP's yoga because I started a little bit over Christmas watching his stuff because I remember him doing that, and so I started to incorporate that because I have a lower back issue from when I worked and I was a auto technician for years, and I had a back injury, and it's really amped up now that I have a desk job and I sit a lot. So it's like, I mean, even sitting right now, I feel my legs are kind of like jello sitting here, but So I started incorporating him, and I'm watching the videos, and I saw Lex, and then I saw all these other guys that he's been able to help. It is DDP doesn't let you feel you can't do something. It's just like the way he handles these people, he motivates them in a way that they feel they can do it. And I think anybody can do it. Just watching what he's been able to do for lots of people.
Yeah, Denise in the chat said she's doing chair yoga, but the radiation damage is on her lungs, so it's hard for her to breathe.
Breathe.
That's rough. I mean,
Can't breathe, you can't do it. I mean, it makes it harder, yeah. You know, I was watching it. One of the things about medical in this country that's absolute crap. Was saying earlier, I was listening to Joe Rogan. He had Mel Gibson on. Mel Gibson said that his doctor called him one day and told him that he had first stage COPD, and he met with a doctor who he's an American, but the way the system was that he ended up going and opening a clinic in Panama and ran stem cells for Mel Gibson. He doesn't have COPD anymore. He healed his scarred lungs with stem cell research. And it's amazing how in this country there's so much pushback with stem cell research to help people. Because I mean, you can go to Europe and get the treatment. I mean, regular people in Europe get stem cell treatment. And I mean, hearing Denise saying like with the radiation and not causing her to breathe, and it's like if our medical system wasn't such garbage in this country, I mean maybe someone like her would have the ability to go and maybe get some help on a stem cell instead of having to fly to Europe or Panama and have a doctor help out. I mean, maybe there'd be a way to reverse that. And it seems to be that there is, but in the United States, it's like, no, we got to pill you.
yeah, a lot of it's like, and the cures are either illegal or banned, or you have to, like you said, go out of country to get the herbal healing and all that. Because I do think the body is very resilient and able to fix itself. And I think that's also what's happening with even with all the poisoning in the food, the water, the air, that we're still like a snake plant. We're able to take those toxins and push them out of our bodies, but
Yeah,
it is doing damage.
it
So
definitely is. But and you see these other like natural remedies. It's like a ancient remedy herbal book, and you add these things, you make like some type of an elixir, and these people were taking it, and it's like, well, my doctor said I had. Let's just use colon cancer as an example, and we got to put you on all this stuff, right? And the guy's like, no, 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 no. So they do research. They find, there's this book out there. It's like natural medicine, herbals, this, that, and the other. Makes this elixir, and he's on it. Goes back to his doctor for screening after like 3 to 6 months or something like that. Well, you're cancer free. What did you do? I was doing this. I mean, it's scary. Yeah,
I have Essiac tea. I
it's
recommended it to
scary.
Brenda, and she's allergic to something in it. But Essiac tea, there's many testimonials of people saying that it has cured their ailments. So
Yep.
um, I'm gonna recommend that to Denise today too. Try that and see how that does for your breathing. It's a lot of different herbal ingredients, and I get it from a certain source that they have it all blended, pre-blended together, dry. And I've been taking it for March is going to be 6 months, so September. 4 months I've been taking it. I have 2 months left, and then I could lower the dosage down. But I'm taking it more as a precautionary thing because I don't see a doctor regularly. I haven't seen a doctor since I went to go get a um a flu test because I got hit with whatever that thing was in 2020. Like whatever the original thing was before they had a test for it.
Yeah,
And yeah, I came back as a positive flu test. Like that was the worst I felt
yeah.
in a very long time. My entire body was hurting and everything. But yeah, so I haven't gone to a doctor since then. especially since I got laid off from my job back in 2020. Yeah, 2020, March 2020. And so I lost my medical coverage with that, and I haven't gotten any other coverage since then because I just can't afford it. And
Yeah,
that's
and
what
isn't it?
sucks about this country is that we don't have accessible healthcare, like
Well, have you
readily
thought about?
available treatment.
Well, have you thought about, you know, crossing the border and then just walking back? And
If I have to, I'll probably find a way.
I'm just, it's a suggestion. I don't know. I mean, it ain't working the other way. I mean, you're onto a good point. With the medical insurance here, we my daughter had tonsil surgery in November. Okay, my insurance. Get this, just so that I could afford insurance, my family deductible is $12,000. This is just to afford it. That I still have extra money at the end of the my paycheck or end of the month. Let's just say, so I could pay my mortgage and car note and regular stuff. I mean, this is what you get. What's called affordable, even working. Our first bill that they come back for the surgery was we were going to have to owe like $6,500.
Yeah,
I
I was
don't
gonna
know,
say like 10 to
smooth.
12,000 out of pocket first.
Yeah, they redid it. But we still owe four, and it's like it's almost like, okay, well, it was nice that the insurance picked up that much, but I mean, there's so many times that like you go for any type of medical, it's going to be out of pocket every single day. It's like, okay, so I have insurance, but yeah, I'm still paying because I have a $12,000 deductible because, well, I need insurance, but this is the one that I could afford through my job because I need money at the end of the day to pay my bills and have food. Can I get on the can I get the medical coverage that like the politicians have?
No, that's off
Oh,
limits.
never mind.
Lizards only.
Yeah, yeah, I'm a peon. I don't. Did you say
You
lizard?
know, I think we need to stop saying that whole thing that we're less than these other people in charge. We're not. We're so powerful beyond our imaginations. And they want to make us think that we are not as powerful as we actually are. So that's their narrative. Their
Narrative.
narrative.
No, you're 100%. You're 100% right because I mean, you go out in public and it's
They
like,
put us in these precarious situations where we can't afford these things, but they make it seem like it's accessible to everybody. It's like, oh, you're just
you
doing something wrong.
you know, now that you mention it, it's a great trick because I would sit there and say the same thing. Man, there's something wrong with me. Why can't I afford this? How are these people buying brand new cars? How are people buying $350,000 houses? I mean, the houses they're building up by me are 450,000, right? Who's affording $450,000 brand new houses in this economy? And then they come out and it's like they talk to us like, well, this is normal. Everybody's doing it, and I'm like, I don't know anybody who's saying that this is what they're doing. I mean, I'm in automotive. Okay, I do claims. The one thing I've noticed that's going to happen this year is the used car market in 2025 is going to drop significantly. And the reason for that is because they can't move new product. They have so much overstock for 2024 because nobody can afford it. They literally will give you away 2024 vehicles to get them off the lot. Okay, well, that's fine. You bring 2025 and no one's going to afford it because look at the price of the average cost of vehicles.
Jeep
So,
almost let me walk off the lot with the Gladiator.
see what I mean?
I almost did it too. They were like typing the numbers in. They're like, how's 500 a month? And this is like a $30,000 car. Like, you fucking kidding me? I've been paying this for how many years? 5, 6 years?
Well, and
Insane.
then it's going to be like of no value by the time you're going to trade it in. Let's say.
Yeah, and let's not even talk about the insurance because that
Oh
would be
God,
like another 400 a month.
yeah,
So you're
something
looking
brand
at
new.
about 1,000 a month for a new car.
Yeah. So they're not making vehicles that are affordable.
No,
They're
and
not
they
making
even got
vehicles.
rid of the ones with the front wheels. I saw this really old video where the wheels go like this, and then the car moves out of a parking spot, and then the
Oh
wheels go
yeah,
back, and then it drives away. Like
yeah,
those types of things would be very advantageous now.
yeah.
Yeah, anybody could park in a tight spot, especially in the cities. But no, they don't. They don't want the technological innovation to continue, which brings us back to what we were first talking about, the stagnation of culture and technology. Like we should not only I have this little like Wrigley's gum size 4 terabyte hard drive in my computer,
Mm.
but that thing should be like 40 or 400 terabytes by now, and it's not. Because I know they have the technology out there. They're just slow burning this stuff to come out.
Yeah.
And there was a large period of time where 2 terabytes was the max you can have.
Mm.
And yeah, so like the technology's suppressed. It's not getting any cheaper. And yeah, now they're all stuck with all of this product and they can't move it.
And that's what's going to happen. Nobody is going to be able to afford these new vehicles because they're getting just astronomical. But it goes back to that point you said. They make you feel like you're a problem because you can't buy that brand new vehicle. You're a problem because you can't buy that new house. You're the problem. You can't buy a Tesla or you don't have all the futuristic stuff in your house, like something in Back to the Future. I mean, every day it's like you wake up and you're got to be reminded about how you're a problem. It's almost like they want you to be depressed. They want you to look in the mirror and go, man, I suck. I failed at life. Then you go to your doctor and you tell your doctor, I feel depressed. Then they hook you up for antidepressants, which makes you feel worse. Then you're unmotivated. Then you gain weight because that's a side effect. Then you're not working out. Then you start eating like crap. And it's just a vicious cycle. It's like you wake up every morning and they want you to feel like crap.
Wake up, Jeremy.
Oh, I know. I got
Wake
my
up.
Kirk Rain glasses on.
Wake up, Jeremy.
Oh, been there for years, baby. You know what I love about this is that 10, 2010, back then, that was my gateway into all this stuff, right? I had a buddy I worked with, and him and I would just watch these crazy documentaries. It had me thinking. And I would share this stuff with people, like my parents, or my current wife was my girlfriend at the time, and they were like, man, you are crazy conspiracy theorists, this and that. These are the same people who now will tell you, like, man, you were so right about what was happening. And it's like, I'm glad people are catching up. I'm glad people are taking the blinders off and look at the bigger picture here.
The biggest thing that is a hurdle for people to get over is cultural genocide. And I've been trying to talk about it with people, but it's just so tough to do because then it devolves so quickly into like a racist versus anti-racist thing. And it's not like we're talking about the one like there's a conspiracy, not conspiracies.
Yeah.
Like the same people that took out JFK are the same ones that brought down the Twin Towers. It's very simple.
Oh,
It's
there's
one
so much.
big mafia family.
It's
And
oh
what
my
Brenda and I were talking about a few days ago, it's bloodlines. These people are
God.
so obsessed with their bloodlines that they'll kill everyone else just to ensure that they survive.
And no,
Or just kill everyone else just for fun.
we're not talking about Roman Reigns, by the way.
No, we're not talking about Roman Reigns or The Rock. But he's a
No,
part.
we are not.
I
No,
think The
we are
Rock has sold his some of his blood, his soul
not.
to
It's
like
so
the
like,
we get back to like the Maui stuff with the energy weapons
oh
and
yeah, yeah.
like
You
even
remember him?
LA. I think there was some like okay, he was in Maui with Oprah asking us peasants, and I don't like saying that, but like asking us that can't afford anything these days to go ahead and donate to help rebuild Maui. But yet I saw all these videos of these lasers coming down, the satellite imagery of like the trajectory. Like there's
Mhm.
like 2 or 3 satellites crossing over the same spot where it all happened. And as far as LA, this actually happened the other day where this dude here was caught trying to start a fire in a neighborhood. And
Wow.
these other neighbors took his ass down. And this
Yeah,
dude
they'll
got
be
arrested.
arrested now for assault, by the way, in California.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the charges are going to come up later for these people
Yeah,
that like
yeah,
saved the entire town.
yeah.
But this
I'm
just
like,
happened. So what we were saying earlier with the three simultaneous fires all
yeah,
far away, it yeah, it turns out that probably all of them were done by people.
yeah,
Now, something
absolutely.
I don't get is how were there 100-mile-per-hour winds?
All at the
Because
same
that's what
time.
I was reading.
I did too, and that came up first.
Yeah, the
I
winds were so
looking at it
strong
now.
that
It was almost like the that happened first. If I checked into that, so the winds were there, then the fires. It was almost like, well, we got an opportunity here.
yeah,
I,
yeah, like they saw the wind as opportunity to burn everything down.
but it was
And
like,
then the
why?
wind just carried the fire all across to the sea.
But it was the same scenario with life. They had the winds, and then the fire. I mean, if you look at it from, if you just look at it from afar, and you're like, okay, well, oh, they winds, and then there was a fire. Well, that would make sense why they would just spiral out of control.
You know,
It wouldn't make
somebody, we're talking about wrestling here today, every show, but Jesse the Body Ventura was the one guy that was talking about the harp weapons for the weather. And he stopped talking about that some time ago. And
Yeah.
just last month, he went back to WWE
Yep.
to do a special announcing job with Saturday night's main event, the first time in 40 years. And this guy's not talking about harp energy weapons anymore, is what
No.
I'm trying to say. Like what changed? Because I would love to hear his take on the fires. And I
You
think
know what?
we know who's in his ear by what his answer is. But
He used
like
to
according to
have a
what
show.
happened in LA, what happened in Maui,
Yeah.
and then what happened in North Carolina, and then also the alien stuff in Miami.
Oh yeah. I
It was
remember.
about a year ago, the ones that were walking
Yes.
around the malls and
In
stuff.
the mall. Yeah.
Like I
You know,
want to
he
hear this
had a
stuff
show.
from that guy, but it
He
seems
used to
like
have a
he's
show.
compromised again.
Well, that's the thing. He had a show. Remember, first he was governor of Minnesota. Once he
Hmm.
was done with that, remember he had a show mid 2000s on conspiracies, and he went around. I mean, hands on. I mean, I remember the one he did with JFK, and he's up in the book suppository, whatever it was called. And he's up there and he's taking the shots because everyone knows he was a Navy SEAL. So
Hmm.
he's up there and he even said, "There's no way this guy could have got off this many shots. He was a poor shot to begin with. He couldn't do it with the tree. This and so Jesse would go to these places and really dig in. And I agree with you. It's like, well, he hasn't said anything in years. It's like he's just backed away from all of that. It's almost like they got to him and said, "You need to shut up."
Yeah, because like what? Yeah, why would he stop talking about that stuff when he's the
I
one
mean,
that pretty much introduced me to the harp stuff,
yeah.
and which we still see to this day, just fields of like grids of towers of antennas.
You know,
And then
there was a
all
video.
this like freak weather has happened, and he says nothing about it.
Right. Did you see there was a photo that somebody put out in LA with the laser. I finally found one where somebody had a video that somebody must have been driving by and then they showed
It was
it
like the
coming
green.
down.
It was like a green laser, right?
Sort of, yeah.
Or it was
And
maybe it was night vision, but either way, yeah.
it
I
was
think I
yellow, I
saw
thought.
a similar one,
And so
possibly the same.
it could have been. I would looked at it and I go, oh, there it is. That's what I was looking for. And you know what it is? If anyone's ever played the game or game series of Gears of War, they had something called the Hammer of Dawn, and it was a laser, almost like a plasma laser. And what you do is in the game, you trigger with a laser. This is your target, and you're holding it, and the laser comes down and hits whatever you want it to do, like precision. And that's what this thing looks like. It's like they have a satellite going around in space with this huge freaking laser cannon or type of thing. And when they hit that spot, they're like, that's where I want it to go. Direct energy source. It's the same thing. It's like, wow, look at that. But they'll tell you that's a conspiracy. Those can't exist. There's no way. They got bugs. They have what look like flies or mosquitoes that are robots flying around and taking
Yeah,
up.
I saw that too. I don't
So
like that at all.
don't tell me that the space program or what the military can do. I mean, just think about it. When the stealth bomber came out, everyone thought it was a UFO, right? And that was in the what? They were building that in the 80s, and then we didn't know about it till the 90s. They were working on that since the 70s. So if you guys 20 years, the stuff that we're seeing now, militarily speaking, this is stuff that they were designing 20, 25 years ago.
Yeah, I'd actually
Stuff
heard.
that they're working on
I
now.
I think either Brenda or Susie or one of my friends. It was probably one of them. They sent me a video of these aircraft that were. It's technology that was developed in the Cold War,
Yeah.
and it is these aircrafts that have skin like exterior that can mold and move into different shapes.
And think about that. I mean, you're talking Cold War,
A
even a
skin
daylight,
on an
70s and
aircraft.
80s, right? 70s and 80s. You're talking 50, 40, 50 years ago. You imagine what they have hiding right now? I don't want to know. I mean, because you're not going to see it for 20 years. By the time
Well,
we even get public knowledge about it, I mean, you go to the Raptor, the fighter jet, they were building that thing in the 90s.
okay, yeah, it was Brenda that said it or sent it to me. She just said in the chat.
So it's
Yeah,
like,
that was wild seeing that.
yeah. So I mean, what we're seeing now is basically what they were designing 25 years ago, in minimal. You imagine what they're gonna have in 25 years? By the time we're in the 2040s, I don't want to know. Like, I mean, by the time we're in 2050s, they might have a droid army going on or something like Star Wars.
That can be
The
invisible
AI.
and like you think about all of this cloaking technology.
Uh,
Imagine a droid army being walked into a country undetected because it has
sure.
invisibility capabilities.
Yeah.
And all that really is light refraction. It takes the light back. And there's somebody I saw that like made a shield that like something with resin where
Uh,
it turned like the guy just hid behind it and it like, completely canceled out every like his uh own figure behind the shield, and then it made all the colors in the back like there was an RV behind him, so it was like tan and green. It was just two different colors lines. So when you look at the shield, that's all you see is the green line and the tan line. You don't see the guy's body behind the thing. But then he's
uh,
popping his head out and looking around like to show off the technology. And this is something a dude made in his backyard.
wow.
So with all of this money, forget about NASA. NASA's a money pit for something else.
Yep.
But as far as like how much money the government has been putting into military technology, like that's just the tip of everything.
Right.
And yeah, we could be having aircraft. We actually, I'm going to say we do have aircrafts flying around that we can't see,
Yeah.
and that we only see it if they've made an accident or they're trying to send us a message saying like we're just letting you know we're here watching you.
Well,
Which
that's like the whole.
F
Oh,
off with the spying and everything else. We need our independence back, and that's part of it is our privacy, and
yeah.
it's clearly getting eroded day in and day out.
Across the globe. This isn't just here. I mean, Europe is they preach about democracy in Europe and stuff, but they infringe on their right all the time. I mean, it's just like we're not. It's not just us. I mean, it's everywhere. It's really weird. Um, and then it's like you look at these countries that like our media demonizes for like their belief system. Like okay, so like Poland won't take in any migrants or asylum seekers or anything like that, and the media demonizes them for not doing it. Right? It's not that they say they don't care. They're saying, look, they stay there, we'll help them, but we're trying to do our what we want to do for our people. Okay, fine.
Here's a good example. The movie Borat, made by Sacha Baron Cohen, portrayed Kazakhstan
Hmm.
as some third world country. But you want to know what Kazakhstan actually looks like? This is it
Yeah,
right here.
yeah, not too bad.
Beautiful place. I meant to make the image bigger,
That's
but
Central
like,
Asia.
look
You
at
know,
this. That's Kazakhstan. They
yeah.
have a little room up here for like 210 people. And there's a whole theory that it was like the fallen angels, and that's their council headquarters inside the pyramid in there. But this is in the country of Kazakhstan, okay?
Yeah.
And you got these other buildings that are really beautiful. But look at this shit. This is stuff I was seeing in like Nashville just last year. These
It's
glass
modern.
buildings.
Well, that's shitty architecture, but
It is very shitty, yes. But the glass buildings just
it's modern.
built up like nothing.
Yeah,
Look at that. And then
modern.
this is another subject we'll get to on another day,
Yeah.
possibly in a different show. But there's a specific like grid pattern in this city. You see how this is like the city center.
Yeah.
And going back to the World Fair stuff, our cities used to look like this too before they decided to tear it all down and say that it was made of plaster of Paris.
That was like in Chicago when they had the World's Fair in the 1890s. The only thing still standing is the Science and Industry building.
Yep, that is the only remaining building from that.
Yeah, and everything else was torn down. And you look at what they call it, the White City or something, or that was the name. Man, it
That's
looked
what it was called.
amazing. Amazing. It looked great. I mean, you imagine if
Here, I'm
they
gonna
had that,
pull up something of Burnham.
if they had kept that. I mean, there'd be so many people like going there to see it and check that out. I mean, we why don't we replicate any of this stuff? I mean, it's like what in that? I think as a society we've just gone backwards. Honestly, I mean, look at architecture in the late 1800s and to like early 1900s. To me, I mean, that's just it's great.
This isn't
Let's
exactly
go.
what I wanted to show, but this
You
is
want to show it more?
okay. Firstly, Daniel Burnham, the architect, was located in Chicago. He's one of the
Sure.
guys that was responsible for building and or assigning these workers to build the World's Fair of 1893. And the reason it was 1893 and not 1892 is because they had delays. But like all of these, it's all gone now. They had statues here. They're no longer here. He had these plans for other cities. This is a good concept one of his. But you see how it just goes out? It's like an
All I'm seeing
sound
is all
resonance pattern. And I think there's something to that with sound technology and stuff. This is actually, yeah, this is what he wanted to do to Chicago.
Hey, the only thing I show is your screen sharing us. That's all I see right now.
Oh no. So sorry.
Yes, that's okay. I'm like, hold
Sometimes
on.
this happens. Hold on, everyone. All right, so Daniel Burnham,
There
this
we go.
is plan for the city of Chicago that never got fully built out. But like he wanted to have all of this greenery on the shoreline here on the piers. He wanted to make new land going out. He had a few islands he wanted to build on it. But like he wanted this symmetry, this geometry. And since I was an idiot and shared my other screen, I'm going to go back up and show you the other buildings. Because he was in some of these buildings as his headquarters. Where is it? This must be the one. This main one in the center. And yeah, in Union Station. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
The Rookery Building. This was before the World's Fair. This monstrous building.
Wow.
and they're feats of technology.
Yeah.
1909 plan of Chicago. He wanted a center, and then he wanted to just radiate it out. And here's that circle that we saw in the other picture, and
Yeah.
then the two piers,
Look at that.
and then that would be
Wow.
just like an opening port. So completely different from what it actually is today. But he wanted this thing to have symmetry, which we never got. Even though somehow we're told he built all of this with all the workers he had, and they had delays and stuff. And they made it out of plaster of Paris. Get out of here.
Look at that.
Get out of
There's
here.
no
Plaster
hole.
of Paris, it gets wet, it's done.
Right. Especially back then. Right.
Look at that. So I believe this is the Science and Industry Building, which used to be the original Field Museum until they moved it closer to
Yeah.
Michigan Avenue
Yeah.
and Grant Park and all that.
Yeah. They built that in like in the 20s, I think, because you
But
can
these
see the.
pictures that I see, I've been told that they were airbrushed, which is very possible. I mean, because we don't have anything left to show.
No.
The few buildings we have left. I mean, look at this. You see the old, I believe I want to say the Tribune building, but then there's Trump's Tower of Glass. Not really anything I prefer,
Nope.
but this is what we were known for building,
Yeah.
or it's what we found when we immigrated here from a past civilization that we know nothing about. And I'm
Oh,
open to that idea. But stuff like this, they were building this stuff. They had to go down to the bedrock. The workers would get a condition called the spins, where they would bleed out of their ears and nose because they didn't know how, like, you go down far enough, like below the sea level, the pressure starts like just pushing on your brain. And these guys got the spins, which really was a very deadly um, after effect of all that stuff. Yeah, all right, that's gonna be a rabbit hole for another day.
okay.
A
That's
taste of
interesting.
what I want to talk about with all that. But every 4 years there was a World's Fair, and
Mhm.
particularly Chicago had one in 1893, and then Nashville had one in 1897.
And then what? St. Louis was 1902 or something, right?
Yes,
'Cause right after-
yes.
And then
So
Buffalo, I thought had one.
I'll have to look at everything because there was also another one that I think came back to Chicago in the 1910s.
Okay.
I'm not sure. And it might be the Buffalo one you're speaking of.
Because I think Paris ended up getting one in between there after St. Louis. I remember they had one too. But yeah, yeah, we had a few of them in a row. And then,
Man, I'm like so serious on this. The I need to do a separate show about all these buildings and architecture and World's Fairs because
okay,
there's something really going on about it. I took classes in college on the history of Chicago. I've gone on walking tours of all these buildings. Some of them probably aren't up anymore,
yeah,
but I have a lot of knowledge on this topic, and I I think people want to hear my opinion on what I think's going on.
enlightenment. Yeah, that'd
But
be
for just to sum it up, like I do think some of these were found. There's these pictures of just paintings of what Chicago looked like when we first arrived here, and it was just like grassy fields and swampland.
yeah.
Like you can't tell me that these people were digging that far down. Like this place was that important that they had to just start from nothing. There had to have been something else here. And the buildings may not have been as tall as they are today, but like if they're far enough away, you block access to them, these people aren't going to find them. They're going to think that the little town that they're in is that's it. You're just not allowed to leave.
Well, it wasn't God, I don't remember his name now. There is a guy out there. He's actually got a show. It's on Netflix. Ancient Apocalypse. And he talks about how there was these advanced civilizations all over the world that got wiped out by a huge event, and we've lost. Well, at least on the surface, we've lost the connection of whatever they were. I still think that if it's possible, the people that kind of run the world know all this stuff. They know all the deep secrets. It's almost like Planet of the Apes, where they go into the cave and they found out that it was humans were here before and it was a civilization. It almost feels like that being played out for us. And even if you go
I
to like,
don't think it was any situation where we're in a cave and we're clacking rocks together. No, like we have been an intelligent civilization for a very long time. We've had multiple resets,
yes,
and we're seeing some of these resets take place right before our eyes with LA just being burnt down to the ground. I saw this one picture comparing downtown LA before and after. It looks like it was turned into Gaza. That's what it looked like to me.
it's
And
Graham
Gaza's
Hancock.
another topic. All of that architecture over the years that have been rebuilt over and over and over and over, continually being knocked down. And I wonder if it's because of the land the religious part of it is important, but the land itself must have some spiritual property beyond the religious significance of the area.
It could
And
be.
I think the same thing about Chicago. Um, there's also ley lines in Denver, Colorado. So these magnetic ley lines, and then we get into the talk of people's life events, moments being recorded in the ground, and that's why we see these apparitions of people. I mean,
Wow.
there's a lot of stuff to all of this, but it becomes so esoteric, then nobody wants to talk about it because they think we're all nuts. But Denise
Well,
said in Queens, New York in 1964, there was another World's Fair. So they were doing these. I want to see when the last one was
I was
because
gonna say I don't think I've been alive for one. I it,
I don't
it's
think
interesting.
so. Like I would have gone to one, I think. But
Let's see.
the only remnants of it I probably went to was Six Flags Great America. Oh man. Or
Wow.
Disney World.
All right. So the one I was talking about, Ancient Apocalypse, that's Graham Hancock.
By the way, the hat for today, this is a 1920s, 1930s Adam, New York hat.
Oh, real? You got an original?
Yes.
Oh my god. See, I want
Yes,
to get
yes,
my hands
yes.
on like an original fedora, from back then. This is just, I bought myself
We'll
one.
get you one. I was gifted this for my time
You find me a good,
volunteering at the museum. So
yeah. Give me a fedora, 30s, 40s, somewhere in there. Or what? Feel like Indiana Jones, but I class it up a little bit. I don't know, some with the hats. I actually got into a spell with watching Peaky Blinders, the 1920s looks and stuff. So that's why I got this. The
yeah, the
last,
bowler hat works. It fit me. This is one of the few hats that actually fit me at the time when I was trying them out.
nice.
And I do need to get another cowboy hat because the one I had I left in Miami by accident.
No,
Uh,
you need to get a wide brim hat. Oh god, what the heck are they called? For reenacting, get a join my black one that I wear. Not the Hardy slouch hat.
I
You
think
got
I
to
know
get a
what you're
slouch.
talking about.
Yeah, you need to get a
There's a
slouch
lot of
hat.
different styles. I said I was
They're
going to
awesome.
wear the fez at some point here on the show. I
I
will
was gonna say
in
I'll
time.
wear my.
Well, I need to get the bin out. I need to go
I was
look at
gonna
all that
say,
again.
yeah, you can do it for the zoo off aspect for the madness.
Zouave Madness. Perfect. Yeah, we'll do that on that show.
You can do that. I'll have to wear a kepi next time. I don't have a red one though, like the officers who wear for zoo off. I have a regular blue one. I can wear that.
Ooh. Uh, Juliet Ann in the chat said Tesla went to Colorado to do experiments with money that Astor or another elite gave him 100K to build a lighting system. Yeah.
Wow.
And Tesla's another subject. He was working with radio and he was getting signals back and he believed it was people who passed on that were talking to him, but it could have been demons. We don't know. But he was getting something speaking back to him on the radio and he was having conversations back and forth.
Maybe they
So
tell you it's demons.
Why
So
aren't we exploring that in the public eye? They're trying to suppress just how precious and powerful we all are and
right,
what this realm is and how it works like a mesh with everything. And they're doing their best to just separate that mesh and to say that we're a speck in a fucking beach. We're one of the little sand crystals in the long beach. And that's all we are. Like we're insignificant. So that's why I tend to move towards that. Like we're living in where most of life is right now.
right.
And we're not on what we're told. Like this is some other place that it would blow our minds if we were told the truth. And
Right.
we're starting to figure it out. But
It feels like it.
it's like it's our inheritance. Like we're the remnants of those who came before us. And we don't even know the people who came before us. Like 3, 4 generations back, we don't know who those people are or were.
Don't
And
you think?
like after they've moved on, like going and ascending the spiritual realm, like it's hard to say that they're still communicating with us now, or if it's just demons effing with us.
Well, it's
Like,
like the last time we did a show, and I, spoke about my experience with my grandma. I do think that there's ways that our ancestors come through to help us in some way. I do. That's my belief. Um, but like you said, I mean, there's a disconnect because your ancestors before you go back 3 generations. It's like you don't know who they were. So like a running joke in my family is that my great grandfather has no headstone. So we in the family are like, oh, well, we're cursed because he's pissed off that he doesn't have a headstone. So my sister and I are always joking like, we just didn't get a headstone for him to break the curse. And I go, like, well, we didn't even know him. He was passed away before even I was born. And that's the sad part is I don't know who the guy was. And like you said, you go back 3 generations and nobody knows anybody. You're lucky if you even know their name. It's like there's just nothing gets carried on down the line.
there is a picture in my family that I digitally enhanced. I like reconstructed it in digital photography class in high school. And I don't I don't know who they were, what they did. They're just standing there. It's a man and a woman. They had children. We have younger photos of them and older photos of them. Don't know if the older photos of them are when they're dead, because I know a lot of times photography, they use that to document the dead and they just propped them up, just had them sitting there.
But
So there's a lot going on with that, but I didn't know who those people were or how significant they are to my family lineage. But I felt it was a good thing to do to clean up the picture so it's not all like whitewashed out. I brought all the blacks forward, the grays and the whites. I gave it more depth. It actually looked like a pretty decent recent picture.
yeah,
So I'm happy with how that turned out. I got to go
you,
dig that out of my archive drive.
you can
So,
actually see mine. This one over here, over my shoulder. That's my great grandfather from. That's my mom's grandfather. And so she tells me that she gave it to me. That's an original that he
wow.
had. They all say I look like him. I could bring that over. Hold on. Yeah, that's an original photo from him. So this is probably got to be 190, 90, 100 years old.
I can see the resemblance in his mouth and eyes and your
Yeah,
nose. Yeah,
yeah. So that was my
I can see how they could see the resemblance there.
yeah. He passed away in 1941. He was a coal miner and he died of the black lung right before Pearl Harbor. I think he died in November,
Wow.
honestly. So my mom never knew him. My uncle never knew him. But it's like, my mom's like, hey, you look like him. So she actually has a big one of her grandmother at her house. So she gifted me that. She goes, you have a lot of similarity, like look, with him. Um, and when you look at that, it's like that's your line. But I didn't know him. That he died 40 years before I was born. But
It's like when I watched um War of 1812 documentaries, I start like tearing up and everything.
is it
I
crazy?
don't have that reaction with any other historical event, but seeing the White House burn down like hits me so hard that like there was a few times where I said that my past life I was a soldier for that war,
You
and
could
very
have.
well could be. Like I don't
Yeah,
know.
you could have been. There's, you know what? And
This
these
is
are the
something I've talked
conversations.
with Larry
I
before.
was gonna say that. It's
Yep.
same with me. He asked me. He goes, "You're so in." It was with my Napoleonic stuff. He asked me. He goes, "Did you ever think that you were part of the Grand Army? Serving under Napoleon?" I go, "Maybe. Maybe that's why you get interested." I do feel that if you have past life experience, you get drawn to certain topics or certain interests because that was things that you might have done in your previous life. So
Hmm.
maybe I was in World War II because every time I watch something on World War II, and I don't spend a lot of time reading it, it's almost like I know about it already. And I'll watch something on it. Like, well, I watch Band of Brothers. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna watch Band of Brothers. And when they're all walking out there, the scene where they're all loading up and they're not saying anything and they're just getting the music and they're pushing each other up there. I don't know why, but it's like that hits me every time. It's like, go get them, boys. And it's just my first mindset. Go get them. It's like I was there. Or I experienced World War II in some event where I get where they're coming from. And every time I see a World War II veteran pass away nowadays, it hits me, and like another one of the greatest generation has been called home. It was the last one I said because I think he was a Pearl Harbor survivor just recently, and I just I see something like that and I'm like, man, there's not many left. Speaking of World War II, I've actually been watching this show on Prime. It's called SAS Rogue Heroes. It's about when the British SAS started out, and they started in North Africa, and it's made by the same guy who made Peaky Blinders, but it's based on a book called Rogue Heroes. So I actually got the book right after I started watching the show, and it's freaking crazy the stuff that they did. I mean, it's like you watch the show and you're like, no way, man, that's show business. Like, no, you read the book and it lines up pretty specific. Like that's really what the SAS did back then. They drive through an airstrip, like a German airstrip, with like jeeps and start machine gun and stuff, and blowing up planes right on the tarmac, and like the Germans are like, where did these guys come out of the desert? They just popped up out of nowhere. It's like, no, real story. It's crazy, man. It balls of steel. That's for damn sure.
I'm gonna share the screen again.
Yeah, good.
So yeah, we're going into the war talk still. Um, all right. So this was the original White House, I believe. And this was after it was burnt. And there's a very few images, paintings. It's mostly painting. It's all paintings
Yeah.
showing what it used to look like.
You can still see the burn marks in certain areas of the White House now.
This is the Capitol.
Yeah, they burn that down too.
So they tried to burn everything down over port. It was a port war. This is one of them.
Yep.
Let's see if I can get it in a new tab.
Do you know why the British burned the city down?
Because they wanted us to stop using their shipping canals.
No, we burned York down before in Canada.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you properly.
I'm sorry. Why they burned Washington? The White House and the Capitol. You know why they burned Washington, right?
No.
retribution because we had burned York down, which is basically Toronto now.
Wow.
Before. Yeah, we
So it's
invaded
just
Canada.
escalation.
Yep. So we went up there. We tried to invade Canada. We burned basically what is Toronto. And so when they invaded, they burned DC down.
Yeah, the War of 1812 wasn't just in 1812. It went until like 1814
15. It was officially done in 15.
and 15.
Yep. And what's funny is I see you have a picture of it, Battle of New Orleans there. Go up, third row, right there. So that actually just took place 110 or 210 years ago on the 8th. And that battle actually takes place after the War of 1812 is signed like a peace.
And
Is
there's
already
Andrew
signed.
Jackson, right?
Andrew Jackson. Um, and yeah, that battle actually takes place afterwards. Now, a lot of people talk about that in the sense of like, well, that was kind of like, why did they, they didn't know, obviously, but it didn't really do anything. The more I dug into it, it actually did represent a fact that because the negotiations were, what did they say? Based on when everything was delivered out, meaning once the news was broke over here about the peace, it was what they call status quo, meaning whoever had what at that point would be able to keep it. And so most people don't realize this, but had the British have won the Battle of New Orleans and captured New Orleans, and then the peace got here and they knew about it, they would have been able to keep New Orleans. So the fact that, yeah, it might have happened afterwards, it still had significance in the fact that we beat them and they didn't occupy New Orleans because it would have been status quo, meaning they could have had an argument to keep New Orleans. It wasn't about giving territory back. It was whatever was captured and had. And there wasn't really much that, had gone on. So that was only something I read when I actually read about the Battle of New Orleans itself.
I'll read this out. The White House has been rebuilt on its original site multiple times due to various disasters and renovations. The most significant rebuilding occurred after the War of 1812 when British troops burned the building down in 1814. See, I can't even read this right. It was reconstructed using the remaining charred timbers and was completed by 1817. So 2 years after the war ended.
Yeah.
I
Crazy.
wonder what they used in place of that during that time. And then President Truman did reconstruction to it from 49 to 52.
So James Madison was president in 18. I think then James Monroe is right after him. So Monroe would have been the first president back into the White House post the war. Yeah, I don't remember where he was after that, where Madison was after that. But yeah, you can see the burn marks somewhere in there. I saw like they did some tour someplace and they showed underneath. Um, you can still see the scorch marks.
Yeah, it sounds like they kept the stone,
Yeah,
so we'll still be able to see that if we really wanted to look at it.
yeah, it's somewhere in there. You can see it though. I guess that's crazy.
But yeah, wow, man, I like that we're going into this today.
Yeah, we've done pretty good today.
Yeah, and like all these depictions of the events, like that's really all we have. They didn't have the photography back then, so. But like this just hits me. This image, and especially in the documentary when they recreated it,
Yep.
like seeing those bastards down there, I
I
can
mean,
tell by the hats it's the British.
they got cool hat. They got cool uniforms though.
Yeah, but like their actions behind them, that's like it's unforgiving. You don't do that. But they were trying to take our country down. So, and again, it, who knows who started it? Could have been a third
Technically,
party.
we declared war on them.
Well, we were
Dumb reason.
using, from what I heard, in the Great Lakes, we were using their routes.
Yeah.
their routes. Okay.
Yep.
I think it was just open routes and they didn't like the fact that we were using them as much as we were. And maybe someone's like, oh, hey, you know what you could do is just take the the boats out. And then that turned it into a full-fledged war.
No, that was impression. They were stealing guys in the high seas and all this other stuff. Fishing rights. It's like I guess if they had telephones, the war never happens. If that makes sense. Mr. Cockburn, yeah, he was a. Oh my God, he was in the Peninsula War, in Spain during Napoleonic Wars.
Oh,
That's
really?
what a lot of these guys, these British guys that came over here, they had fought against Napoleon's armies in Spain.
Very interesting.
Specifically, yeah, the Battle of New Orleans, those were veterans that had fought with Wellington.
And the Battle of
His,
New Orleans happened during the War of 1812.
yeah, so that was
Just to
that was
clarify that.
January 1815. So that was the last real battle. And the general who led that invasion of New
Oh,
Orleans, the British, he was
look at
actually
that down there.
he was the brother-in-law of the Duke of Wellington, the guy who beat Napoleon at Waterloo.
That son of a bitch.
Look at that.
Burning something.
Did you hear about the story about after the burning of Washington?
No, tell it.
So the burning of Washington is burning in the background, and what happens? There's a huge storm that comes in. They don't know if it was like a hurricane or like a tornado or something, but it rains. It puts out the fires, and then the British
Wow.
are actually leaving to get back on the ships in the Chesapeake, I believe, and they get like roughed up per se because of the storm. Yeah, look it up. The storm right after it. So the rain puts out the fires, and I think they said a tornado had gone to the British camp as they're leaving. Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, we can do like a 5-hour show on this.
Yeah, we'll have to split that for another one.
We'll split it up. We'll come back to this topic again
Yeah, we could do that always, man.
because there's so much with just the War of 1812. And then we, we got the World Fairs too.
Yeah, I got a book on the 1812 over
Oh, I
there.
think I found something. And we'll probably be wrapping up soon. Probably in
There
like
it is.
20, 30 minutes. We're rolling out pretty good. We're almost at 2 hours.
Yeah,
But the tornado that stopped the burning of Washington.
that was it. Yeah,
2015, and it says 200. So 1814. Yep, August 25th.
there you
Anecdotal evidence of the tornado, which apparently touched down in the middle of the city, comes from the National Weather Service. Did major structural damage to the residential section of the city. More British soldiers were killed by the tornadoes, flying debris than by the guns in the American resistance. Oh, sounds like an act of God if there was one.
go. America's crazy weather services.
Yeah, it was the harp of 1812. Vrr.
Made of
Jefferson's
wood.
like, fire up the harp. Get a fucking tornado to get these sons of bitches out of here.
Yeah,
Yeah, the British occupation of undefended Washington, D.C. in 1814.
yep. There you go.
The British were urged to attack something in the former colonies after American troops attacked Canada and burned some government buildings. Yeah, so it's retaliation. All right.
Yeah.
Well, and then President Madison escaped the city. Very horrific stuff when you put it just like looking at this all objectively.
Uh-huh.
The severe weather lasted for 2 hours, dumping torrential rain on the city. At least 2 British troops were killed, and Gleig was knocked off his horse. It's like, how do they know that? Unless it's like in a memoir that he wrote.
Might have been. Yeah.
He also said two, oh yeah, he also said 2 cannons were picked up in the air and tossed around during the most violent part of the storm. And are we still talking like these are Napoleonic cannons?
Yeah, yeah,
Ooh.
yeah. So the same ones we see at the reenactments. It's the same type of stuff.
And just pick them up.
Yeah,
Wow. Those suckers are heavy.
yeah,
Uh, the winds tore roofs off of the general post office and the patent office buildings. Trees were uprooted. Well, that's kind of expected. Look what I said, unless it was in a memoir.
Yep.
And here Michael Shiner goes and talks about it in his. Okay.
And so,
Madison and the American forces returned to Washington to see the destruction. The White House and Capitol were rebuilt, and Thomas Jefferson donated his book collection to restock the Library of Congress.
he did.
So when you're thinking about throwing those books away, think again. Don't just donate them out to wherever. Some of these thrift shops throw them out. And I know for a fact because I've been given a lot of books that have been thrown out at thrift stores. And I resell these books. So I save them from the landfill. But that's admirable there. Jefferson's our guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 weeks later, they invaded Baltimore in a similar attack that eventually inspired the Star Spangled Banner, which also that song that pulls on my heartstrings because
Yep.
it's about them taking cover all night because they were being bombarded from the sea by all these ships with gunfire and cannon fire. And when they reemerged in the morning, that was the first thing they looked for was the flag that was still flying on the pole.
Yep.
Yeah. So in the chat here, Denise said what she finds fascinating about history is that if we go back, we remember things differently, where they say today, no, it never happened, and different timelines happening. I do think something like that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually, it's surprising how mainstream the Mandela effect is now, because I heard someone talking about it on the radio late at night, that like, they're doing a master's course like a paper on the Mandela effect, and there's like some psychology student, and they're trying to say that like it's misremembering and all that stuff. But yeah, just like pop culture things, lines in movies, but then further back you go into history, and even history sounds different from time to time.
Yeah.
So like there's certain like very minute details that it's like, wait, I never heard that before. That sounds very important. Why was I never told that like years ago? And now all
Right.
of a sudden it's supposed to be collective knowledge of everybody. I wish I had an example though.
I know what
But
you're
like
saying now.
the World's Fairs are actually one of them because we were told it was all built to not last and to be
Mm-hmm.
destroyed shortly afterward. Yet we have the one building that lasted and it's all stone. So
Yeah.
why weren't all the other ones built like that? And if they were using paper mache, technically, that stuff would fall apart.
Yeah. They
Plaster,
were up for
plaster of
months.
Paris. Like that
Yeah, they were up
stuff's
for
not going to last.
no, it was up for months too.
Hamilton is buried in by Trinity Place. Hmm. So sounds like we have to take a trip to Trinity.
Let's go.
I haven't gone to New York yet.
Never been there.
I really like how the East Coast is like it's so compact with all these historical events because everybody was living so close together during that time. And then the Western expansion, like there has to be other stories of Lewis and Clark and other explorers that like found these massive buildings that look just like the ones that are in Chicago, like out in Nevada, out up in Washington State.
Yeah.
And the history books say that they were built in like a couple of years. The same story they give with the World's Fair buildings.
Yeah.
Go, oh yeah, it just took us like 2 years. Massive 12-story brick stone. Yeah, give me a break here.
They can do
They
that
also
now,
dig down to the bedrock too, like they did in Chicago, because like that's some labor intensive work.
especially back then. No, it'd be hard for them to do now.
Yeah, the Monopoly guy, Ace Ventura, they had the guy with the monocle,
Yeah,
called him the Monopoly guy
he was
because of the
great.
monocle and the mustache and bald head.
Yeah,
He dances with them and like that's something. So like residue is, I think, like the residue of the original thing prior to the Mandela effect happening are because the people that lived through it are still remembering it the way that they lived through it. And it's kind of the same thing with like art done by hand. Certain like logos and stuff have not changed and others have.
hmm.
And I wonder if it has something to do with if the people are still living, that memory stays intact until they pass on and then it could be rewritten or something like that.
That would make sense.
I don't know though, but that's my guess on it.
That's a good point. That's a good
Because
point.
like there's these movies where people like come on, James Earl Jones saying, Luke, I am your father. He goes on to talk shows. He was doing that for years,
Yeah,
saying that line that
yeah,
we cannot find in the original movie now.
yeah. They took it up. Yep,
And
everybody
it's
knows.
not anything to do with George Lucas re-editing his stuff until it's unrecognizable. That's a whole different topic. But like the reason the like give me a reason why James Earl Jones would misquote his famous lines
Yeah,
on national television.
yeah. They're trying to change the meaning behind it now.
Yeah, now he's passed. So
Right.
we still have the memories of what it used to be.
Yeah.
Ugh, it's just like, yeah.
Yep. Altering the timelines based on changing perception of reality. Yeah, that happens. Happens in history stuff all the time. Every time I read like what I read 20, 30 years ago, and then you hear about it now, or they talk about it now, and I'm like, that's not what I was told. That's not what I was read. That's not what's in
And
the
then
book
that
behind me.
that goes into this whole concept of you can change your reality
Mhm.
just by thinking so,
Yeah.
but it's difficult to do
Right.
because again, everyone for the most part is
Mm.
stuck in the matrix.
Right. They
Get
are.
out of the matrix. And once we leave from that, then that's when all these weird things start happening.
Yes.
There was this guy, um, this is still all connected to like this spiritual topic too. I went paranormal hunting at Bachelor's Grove Cemetery for many years. Tried to find stuff that people used to talk about, legends of this place, like disappearing houses, um, a farmer and his horse and his plow falling into the lake there, and seeing other like ghostly apparitions, but also different beings.
Oh well.
And there was this one guy that's now passed, and he took his own life in the forest across the street. And I wish I knew about it. I like found out a year after it happened. But I met this guy in the cemetery when he was still doing all of his research, and he seemed like a very stable individual, very curious about the area, really wanting to find out the truth of what was going on there. And cemeteries is another topic we can talk about on another show. That that's all money grab from the government so that we don't bury our loved ones on our own property and then they
Yeah.
charge us property tax. But like the Bachelor's Grove Cemetery, it was a place where everybody would go bring like picnic blankets and have lunch there with their family like every week. It'd be like their type of family gathering with their deceased loved ones.
Yeah.
So there's that positive aspect of it, but then you have all this paranormal stuff that happens. So the guy that I was talking about, his name's Pete Crapia, and he had found out that through a series of photographs that he took with different cameras and also using like radio wave devices and stuff, that there's methane gas that is trapped underneath that cemetery and
Okay.
that it comes up like quite occasionally. And that could be blue orbs that we see in these photographs.
Oh wow.
But that's not the only types of orbs that are out there. But that was one of them. But the other thing that he started to dig into before he passed, and he never shared it. I wish he shared it. He was saying like, "Oh, I'll share it one day." He shared some of it. He saw different beings that were existing in a different dimension there and were trying to communicate to him. And they seemed like they were very inviting, almost like they were tall whites or something. And like these are like the alien type of things. Beyond that, he also was told by visitors that they saw him at the front of the trail before they walked in, and then they saw him in the cemetery
Oh wow.
when they got through the trail, and they thought like he sprinted ahead of them to get into the cemetery before him. And he's like, "No, I've been here in the cemetery this whole time." So what's going on there?
Yeah, right.
It's like me meeting you at the front of the cemetery at the trail grounds, and then you walk the half a mile of the cemetery, and then you see me again in the cemetery. Like I'll be like, "Yeah, yeah, good to see you. I'm leaving. Bye." And then I'm in the cemetery.
Oh, wow.
And you took that like 5-10 minute walk to get down there. So what's going on with that? And I really think it has to do with magnetic ley lines. But again, like just the land in general, the the types of material that's in the ground. It's just a certain mixture that now allows for these anomalies to take place. And we can't really say that that was the same guy standing at the, he never had an experience or memory of meeting those people at the front gates.
Yeah,
And then, like, that brings up the whole topic of is it something imitating him to these other living people?
maybe. That's fine.
And is there like a parallel dimension that's like that we phase in and out of? Like, we're
I've
able
heard
to
of
see them, they're able to see us from time to time.
that. Wow. That's an interesting. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, it's some real interesting stuff, but it's I don't really I don't know. I feel like I'm going way too far into this, but this is Madness Hour, so we're allowed to talk about it. Uh, Julianne in the chat said to look into the Ice Cube project and the other projects in Antarctica. She says she believes they're doing interdimensional time travel research there too, if you look at what they're doing. Yeah, I believe that. And then since we're on that topic, so we're bouncing all over the place.
Right.
But the interdimensional time travel stuff, there's this book that I have, and it's called like Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey with his little dog.
Really?
And what Tesla's father or no, Tesla's papers were given to Donald Trump's uncle or father, one of the two.
Really?
Oh, and then we have the Back to the Future movie that has Biff that looks like Trump.
That's true. He did.
And I used to brush these things off as
Yeah.
coincidences, especially the Trump comparison, because I'm like, oh, come on, Biff's not Trump. What are you talking? But they made it like a Trump Tower. He's like living at the top of it. He's the richest man in the world in the movie
Yeah.
for the most part.
Oh my God, time travel. Wow,
But
that's crazy.
these books were written back in the 1910s.
Yeah.
One of them I think was like the 1890s,
Okay.
and I haven't read them yet. I probably will do a deep dive reading through those for everyone because it is
Mhm.
available, I think, online in PDF form for free. But I have
Yeah.
physical copies that were printed before they released it for free. It was like right after the copyright expired, and then these other publishing houses wanted to create physical copies of them. And I know Brenda has ones too. But there's like three different books of that. There's two of Barron Trump, and the third one is, I think, called 1910 or The Last President.
Oh wow.
And it starts off with, um, oh, like a mob rioting in New York City.
That sounds about right.
Hmm.
That's awesome.
Oh man. Yeah, you guys in the chat here are really bringing up all these topics. We're never going to be able to cover them all today.
Love to
But
do.
Jason H brought up about Eric Hecker. Eric Hecker has lots of info on neutrino detectors. I don't know where to begin on that. So I'm gonna
Research.
have to look into that, study it, and see what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know. I'm gonna have to look up all that stuff. And that's why I like having people interact. I do
Yeah.
like you all being here while we're live and that you're able to talk in the chat while we're doing our stuff here. And it's not separate because like I see what's going on in the chat, but I just can't address it all the time. And yeah, you all being here is just helping this all move along. And you guys bring ideas here and it helps change the direction of the show a bit. And I like that. And it keeps us on not on edge, but like on our toes and just keeping
Gives us
our
a flow.
thinking
Yeah.
sharp.
Yeah. Gives us a flow. It's good.
Yeah, yeah. Brenda's saying we have stuff to do. Yeah, we both
I
have
guess we can do.
Barron Trump books. But
There
let
we
me see.
go.
I have them. I'll just show them on camera here, but I want to be able to show you. This is probably going to be like 20 different shows here.
Well, we'll be good to go then. More material.
First one is unrelated. Um, what year? First published in 1942. Earth Changes by Edgar Casey.
Uh,
And a lot of the stuff with Edgar Casey, um, there's a lot of debate on what it like the people that inherited all of his works might have altered some of what he was doing, but he was I have his book from They Live. This was on the bookshelf in a scene in They Live, and I picked one
nice.
of these up, and it was not cheap. But this is about um ESP,
Nice.
communicating with thought. And he went all into that at some point. So Ingersoll Lockwood is the author of this, and it's called 1900 or The Last President.
Oh wow, look at that.
And I'll just read the first paragraph here. That was a terrible night for the great city of New York. The night of Tuesday, November 3rd, 1896. The city staggered under the blow like a huge ocean liner which plunges full speed with terrific crash into a mighty iceberg and recoils shattered and trembling like an aspen. The people were gathered lighthearted and confident at the evening meal when the news burst upon them. It was like a thunderbolt out of the azure sky. Altgeld holds Illinois hard and fast in the Democratic line. This elects Bryan, President of the United States. And then it goes on to say they rushed out of their streets, went into public squares, and in less than half an hour, mounted policemen dashed through the streets, calling out, "Keep within your houses, close your doors, and barricade them. The entire east side is in a state of uproar. Mobs of vast size are organizing under the lead of anarchists and socialists and threaten to plunder and despoil the houses of the rich who have wronged and oppressed them for so many years. Keep within the doors, extinguish all lights." Sounds like the Dark Knight Rises. "We'll take you out of your decadent nests, Batman." Like, it's the same thing over and over and over and over and over.
Yep.
But this is about like uproar after an election. And this is
Right.
Ingersoll Lockwood. This is like, I want to say the third book in the trilogy. This one is also by him, and it's called Travels and Adventures of Little Baron Trump and his wonderful dog Bulger. And that's not all, but there's another one called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey.
Interesting.
This was printed in India, and it's not going to show it, but
Nope.
it's there.
Oh, yeah, I see it now. Okay. Oh, look at that.
So I had to buy this online in some like obscure book forum, and like I got it, but you can get it on PDF now. But there are so many like parallels here. It's unreal, and like this isn't coincidence. There's something to it.
I agree.
So that'll be a roller coaster for another day. But I had to just take those. So all of those topics too. It's like, where do we start talking about this stuff to anybody? Like these aren't icebreaker conversations, like typical,
No,
like how's the weather?
I get small talk, so no. I agree. How do you broach those ideas to somebody? I don't know.
Oh, Jason H said, have you seen about all the other predictions in Back to the Future, like 9/11? Yes, I have. I've watched a lot of YouTubers go in depth about that, and I should probably do a series on that too at some point. But there are so many 9/11 references in the Back to the Future series. Backward 66 too. Um, there's just all these different clues, but the Twin Pines Mall becomes the Lone Pine Mall. The time on the mall clock is 9/11, turns 9/12.
Yep.
Like, it's predictive programming,
Yes.
and it's really, I feel there's something nefarious with it.
Yeah.
But I think it's also for us to figure out what's going on with that. And I think that's connected to the power that we have inside ourselves that seems like everyone that's in charge is trying to tell us, no, we don't have it.
Exactly. Keep us dumb.
Yeah, I'm going to watch the Eric Heckler interviews, or Eric Hecker. He said, Julie Ann said Sean Ryan did some videos with him, so I'll have to check that out. And Denise asked, what about deja vu that people are getting? Um, I was thinking about that the other day. I think it came up in some forum I was looking at. Deja vu might be something that you did in another life and you're going through the same motions again. The same exact like blocking. Think of it like a stage play. The blocking of the actors. Like you move
Yeah.
over here, you move over there, you pick this up, you drink that. So like those kind of trigger those moments. But also you can predict what people say. Like I know people that have had deja vu. We're like, I knew they were going to say that. actually there was I think an Instagram reel or something like that. It might have been TikTok, where they're like, I witnessed like the death of my friend, and I wrote a big Facebook post about it, and then here now I am 2 years later, and the same people that I talked to 2 years ago are contacting me again saying that they've died, and then I went back and looked at my Facebook post and it was not there. So I think it was related to the Mandela effect thing. So yeah, I guess what I'll say is deja vu might be connected to the Mandela effect in a way, or something back to this franchise that never goes away. Deja vu means they changed something.
That's right.
Truth is in the movies. As much as I've talked about The Matrix, I have not gone in depth about all three of the films, especially the first one. And with this new perspective on everything, I think it'll be nice and fresh to jump in and talk about all uh those things in the movies. Because I do think they put those messages in for a fact. They live with Roddy Piper. There's a scene where they're walking in on these elites talking at this gathering about their plans for 2025. It's nuts. Like it's there. And that's something that I don't remember. Or when I watched it, I thought it was too far away because it must have been like 10 years ago is the last time I watched that movie. And I've watched it like a handful of times. I want to say like 3 or 4 times I've watched that movie. The Dark Knight, I've watched close to 100 times. The Truman Show, I've watched probably 20 or 30 times. So there's like, and then The Matrix, holy, probably more than The Dark Knight, probably over 100 times, the first movie.
Yeah.
So those were my top three films that I would like dive into, see all of this esoteric symbolism in, and there's truth hidden within there. So besides all of the content that I've made over the past 2.5 years regarding the Matrix, there's still stuff that was put into those final films that were predictive programming. And it's detached from the people who originally wrote it. The middlemen, the elite that helped produce the film and have it shown to everyone, they said, we want this in there. We want this in there. And I think that's been happening for a long time.
I do.
And it was just one of many casualties of the film industry was the Matrix franchise, where they went and put all of these things in. Neo loses his sight in the third film, but then he's able to see light. He's still able to see. So, like, what do you say to that? Like, there's something to that. Like, sonar hearing, like, people that are completely blind can still see some things. Like, there's a sonar image that's made in their head of like they know when people walk into the room type of thing. Oh, that's awesome, Jason. I'm jealous. He said he met Nolan at a pre-screening of The Dark Knight and that it's a life highlight. Yeah, that would be a life highlight for me too, man. I really looked up to Chris Nolan. Like I thought I say thought. I'm working through my own stuff here with the film industry, so don't mind me. But I looked up to Christopher Nolan, and like I said, I've watched The Dark Knight over 100 times. So I I have a lot of respect for what that film did for society. Like it was a trajectory. It threw us into a different path. Like it's crazy. I still remember the day that Heath Ledger died, and that was well before the movie came out in the summer. And I just felt like just from the production stills alone that this movie was going to be something special, and it ended up being so. And Yeah, it's still in my top. I need to remake my top like 10 because I've been saying now They Live is my number one film, and Roddy Piper's in it. And it's about taking those blinders off. Or no, putting the special glasses on to see the real people who are controlling everything.
Yes.
And in that movie, it turns out to be like alien entities dressing up as people in suits, reading the newspaper. In fact, one of the scenes where he uses the glasses in, this is at the newspaper stand. And it's sitting on my desk right here, right now.
Nice.
So, like, I take all that stuff seriously. Like, there is truth in these movies. We just need to dissect them out and separate the wheat from the chaff, right? And then you have all these other garbage movies. Who the heck cares about that one? Jumanji's a good one. I was gonna pick this one up first, but I was like, no, Jumanji's good. Total trash. Absolute trash. So you just got to know what to pick out.
Yep.
All right. So do you have any closing thoughts, Jeremy? I want to
Man,
be able to wrap this up without us going
uh,
too long here.
we yeah, we got a lot of topics that we can cover for a couple of shows. So we got some good info. So this is going to be good starting the year off this way because I know we've been talking about really getting back into a roll with this, and a lot of distractions last year, especially at the end of the year. So let's roll, man. Let's roll.
Yeah, I think we're going to be more consistent on all of this. And I wanted to do this weekly, and the last one was 2 months ago. So at least we got to do a second one.
We're gonna
I'm
do this.
thankful for that.
Yes, we're gonna be doing this. Yeah.
And this show also gave a lot of topics to talk about in the next shows where we can dive deep into these things with the World's Fair. We can get back well, I had these three hashtags on the first show that I carried over to this one. History, paranormal, and Hollywood. And we touched all three of those topics.
Yes, we did. Now we got other stuff. So we got stuff to last us for a few weeks before we roll into something else. And then we'll get back into wrestling conversations like we always do. Oh, that's my
Oh
word.
yeah.
Oh yeah. That's why I bought the t-shirt. So man, yeah, it was fun, man. I like doing this. So we'll get it again.
I appreciate the commitment with the shirt and the bandana. And you
Oh
also
yeah.
brought the old hat out too. So thank you for that.
No, no problem, man.
You didn't have the bar location this time, but
Oh, man, I'm gonna figure out what happened to the bar location. I'll find something next time. So no, I definitely don't like looking at my window, but I'll get something next time. All right. Well,
yeah, it's
I
all good.
appreciate having us do this, and we'll be doing it again, soon. We'll get something else going. I'll wear another costume.
Sounds good. Yeah, and I should probably wear a wrestling shirt too for the next one. I'll have it underneath the dress shirt here. I'll
There
rip
you
it
go.
to Hogan.
There you
Ah,
go. Full Hogan. Cool,
yeah,
man.
all right. So thank you, everyone. This was Madness Hour, and I hope you all had a great time today. And we kept it under 3 hours. And man, I can't wait for the next one. I don't know when it'll be, but as Macho Man Randy Savage says, the cream always rises to the top. And I think that's what happened here today. We had a good time, and we got a lot to talk about for the next shows. I'd say we'll try to keep it once a month. Like that'll be easier to do. So we'll do it there'll be half as much time between the last show we did to this time.
Yep.
And then we'll end up if it works for our schedules, we'll try to do it more often. But I don't want to make any promises.
Sounds
But
good.
I do have the links in the description for Jeremy's podcast. He has some pretty cool topics he's talked about on there. And this Yissilmissil Productions channel, I'm doing a Coral Castle deep dive. So that's ongoing. It's probably going to be 3 more parts. And I'm reading through an entire book. It's right here. And I got it right from the source at Coral Castle in Florida. And that's a whole other topic, but it has to do with architecture and building, sound levitation. That's what at least I think's going on there. More energy stuff. And that's an ongoing series that I'll be doing hopefully every Tuesday until I'm done with that. So by next month I should be finished with that.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate it again. But I got to get my podcast rolling up now that the calendar year's started. I got some stuff I'm gonna do.
You just got invited to Beyond the Box by Brenda, Jeremy. So whenever you want to come
Okay,
join
cool.
us late at night, we usually do
Yeah.
shows, well, like 8, 9 o'clock sometimes.
No, that's fine.
2 hours
Perfect.
max.
That's fine with me. I can. Yeah, that works better for me. So yeah, I'll reach out to you guys. We'll get something up. All right. I
Awesome.
appreciate it. All right. Well, you have
Awesome.
a good
Yeah.
weekend,
Yeah. We have a
bro.
lot of fun over there. And
All right.
it's a very good community. Like we got a
Good.
lot of regular watchers and
Good.
it is a community. It's
I think
like
I'm
a
gonna move
family.
my podcast to YouTube kind of thing too.
Yeah. I'd like to
But
be a
wait.
guest on your podcast again soon.
Awesome. Absolutely. Like always,
Like we'll
bro.
get this stuff moving. Like
Yes, this is the
we got
year,
the
man.
calcification removed from our brains, and now
Yes.
here we're
Yes.
getting shit done. So
Yeah. Motivation is back, baby. Oh yeah.
Whoa.
All right. Well, you have a good weekend, and thanks for everybody listening to us too.
Yes, and until the next one, class dismissed.